Chapter 1. When the sun rose from the eastern mountain, the morning bell startled the flying birds. Dali Dynasty, Longyuan Province, the first aristocratic family, Fong family's Wanxiang Garden. There was a small courtyard in the southeast corner, and in the middle of the courtyard was a pond. There were many precious lotus flowers planted in the pond. Some were as warm as jade, some were as beautiful as fire, some were small and exquisite, and some were as big as a wheel. Occasionally, there were dewdrops rolling on them, and wisps of mist lingered in the air. The wind blew the flowers, and the fragrance was pleasant. The clear and bright pond water rippled, and under the morning sun, it shone with golden light, like thousands of golden scales dancing. There were 3 people standing next to the pond, 1 man and 2 women. The man did not wear a crown, and he was about 15 or 16 years old. He was tall and straight, with a slender waist, brows like distant mountains, and eyes like bright stars. Unfortunately, his cheeks were slightly pale, and his lips were slightly purple, as if he was ill. This person was the eldest son of the second branch of the Fong family, named Fong Qingshan. Although the Fong family was the first aristocratic family in Dali Dynasty, Longyuan Province, and could even be related to the Emergent sect, it was not that they did not have enemies. When Fong Qingshan's mother was pregnant with him, hostile forces took advantage of the fact that Fong Zitao had succeeded as the governor of Longyuan Province and wanted to plot against Fong Zitao. However, his mother had unwittingly destroyed the plan. Of course, the result could be imagined. The enemies who were humiliated into anger naturally had nothing to say to his mother. Fortunately, the Fong family reacted and saved his mother. However, there was no doubt that Fong Qingshan not only affected the fetus, but also had a congenital deficiency. Although all these years, because of his mother's contribution, and because he was the eldest son of the second branch, he had all kinds of top-grade elixirs such as ginseng bird's nest, glossy Ganoderma, Polygonum multiflorum, and so on. However, it only slightly adjusted his body to ensure that he did not die. If he wanted to practice martial arts, it was beyond his ability. Unless there was a miraculous elixir from the immortals, but it had a heaven-defying effect. Not to mention curing a congenital deficiency like Fong Qingshan, it was not impossible to bring the dead back to life. Unfortunately, such elixirs could not be obtained by ordinary people. Although the Fong family was considered good in Dali Dynasty and had some relations with the Emergent sect, it was obviously not enough to obtain such a treasure. However, in this world, martial arts cultivation was the general trend. Without strength, even the emperor of a country was just a slightly bigger ant, waiting to be slaughtered. Because of this, Fong Qingshan knew that he had no aptitude for martial arts. Although the results were very little, he had never given up, because he had never given before. Although he was born, his sister Fong Qingxue was a genius. Although he was born, his sister Qingshan was a genius. She had although he was and she had a sect. Fong sect, and she had become a disciple. In cultivation, if Fong cultivation was Qingshan sect, he was in the elixir sect. The other two, they were, they were, and they were, he was there, and in as, flower, family in a family. At this moment, Fong Qingshan's eyes were slightly closed. Hollow spear was on his neck, chest, and back. His shoulders were lowered, and his tongue was on his palate. His feet stepped on yin and yang, and his hands separated the universe. It was as if he was integrated with the whole environment. He concentrated on his dantian, and with his breathing, he slowly practiced Tai Chi. The wild horse shook its mane. The golden lion hugged the ball. The red phoenix rose to the sun. The old man pushed the door. The green dragon swung its tail. The golden snake turned its head. The moon was in its arms. The jade girl presented flowers, and the power shook the universe. His movements were slow and smooth, and every move was smooth and smooth, like moving clouds and flowing water. Looking closely, one could see that, with Fong Qingshan's movements, the dust under his feet formed a few Tai Chi yin-yang fish patterns from time to time. Phew! After a long time, the sun had already climbed high in the sky. Fong Qingshan finally stopped. He slowly stood up and exhaled a long breath. The turbid air left his body, for a long time. As he opened his eyes again, the two maidservants standing next to him, like clay sculptures, seemed to have come to life. They hurriedly took a towel to check the man's sweat. They also brought the warm medicine for Fang Qingshan to take. His cheeks, which had become paler because of practicing Tai Chi, finally had a little more color. Practicing Tai Chi was actually refining essence into Qi and consuming the strength of the body. Fang Qingshan was congenitally deficient. Practicing Tai Chi would only make his injuries worse. Because of this, he had been practicing Tai Chi for 10 years, but he was still in the realm of health. It was not until a year ago that the situation suddenly changed. Looking at the way he used Tai Chi, he moved his Qi like silk. He moved like a cat. When he was slow, he moved like a cloud. When he was fast, he was like lightning. When he was still, he was like a mountain. When he moved, he was like a rabbit. He stored his Qi like a drawn bow, and he released his Qi like an arrow. This was not the realm of health. He had obviously reached the fourth level of the physical body, the realm of toughness and gentleness. If anyone else were to find out about this, they would probably be shocked. Let alone a sickly person like Fang Qingshan. Even an ordinary disciple of the Fang clan would need at least 3 to 5 years of training in winter and summer to reach this level. Moreover, it would be impossible for them to reach this level. Moreover, they would need to have a decent aptitude. However, Fang Qingshan only used about a year's time. Especially when he was congenitally deficient, he had reached this realm. It was extremely terrifying. However, in this situation, other than the two maidservants who took care of him, Fang Ling and Fang Qin, no one else knew about this. The reason for this situation was actually very simple. Because of his health, Fang Qingshan lived in this small courtyard in the southeast all year round to cultivate his mind and body. He did not and could not go to the martial arts field with other disciples of the Fang clan to practice kung fu. Fang Zitao, who was in charge of the Fang clan, and his father, Fang Zeshan, were in charge of external affairs and internal affairs respectively. They were very busy and had no time to care about him, except for the second sister, Fang Qingwei, who would find time to visit him. The others, even the servants, rarely came to the small courtyard. People always sought advantages and avoided disadvantages. Although Fang Qingshan was the third young master of the Fang clan, he could not practice kung fu and had no future. He was just a person waiting to die, and there was no future to speak of. In this case, except for Fang Ling and Fang Qin, no one else would come to flatter him. After all, not everyone had the foresight of Lu Buwei, who would invest in someone before he became famous. Fortunately, the head of the Fang clan was Fang Qingshan's father, and he could not practice kung fu, so he was not a threat to others. Therefore, there were no other incidents. Tap, tap, tap. Fang Qingshan went into his room to freshen up. When he walked to the central room, Fang Ling and Fang Qin had already served a table full of dishes, such as bird's nest porridge, ginseng chicken, Ganoderma fried meat, caterpillar fungus soup, and so on. Anyway, the cost of this meal was probably more than a year for a well-off family, and it was not something that could be bought with money. Sitting in the main seat, just when he was about to eat, his hands paused. His ears twitched, and he heard footsteps from afar. Chapter 2. Although he noticed that someone was approaching, Fang Qingshan's expression did not change at all. His hand paused for a moment, then he continued eating. Even the two maidservants beside him did not notice anything strange. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door of the small courtyard, and a pleasant voice was heard. Is third young master in? Your servant Fang Yu requests to see you. Ah, Sister Yu is here. Before Fang Qingshan could say anything, Fang Ling and Fang Qin ran out happily. If it had been any other place and any other master, the two of them would have been severely punished or even killed. Fortunately, whether it was in the past or now, Fang Qingshan was very tolerant of the two of them as long as they did not make any mistakes of principle. The reason why Fang Ling and Fang Qin were so happy to hear that someone was here was simple. As previously said, water flows to the lowest point and man strives to the highest point. Because of Fang Qingshan's congenital condition, he did not have a good aptitude for cultivation. Although there was no situation where he suppressed his master, It was obvious that no one thought highly of him. Naturally, Fong Qin and Fong Ling were not accepted by the servants of Fong Qingshan. Because Fong Qingwei would visit her brother from time to time, the servants around her naturally became familiar with Fong Ling and Fong Qin, and became one of the few good sisters. Not long after, Fong Ling and Fong Qin walked in with a young girl. "Greetings, third young master." Fong Yu walked into the central room and saw Fong Qingshan eating his breakfast leisurely. His movements were elegant, and his expression was serene. Although he still looked like a frail scholar, Fong Yu felt that something was wrong. It was as if there was an additional spirit in him. Although she had a lot of thoughts in her mind, she did not show it on her face. "Yes." Fong Qingshan's expression was gentle, and he nodded slowly. "No need to be so polite. Did second sister ask you to come?" "What's the matter?" "Third young master, it was second miss who asked me to come." Although many people in the house didn't think highly of this sickly young master, and even she felt sorry for the two sisters, Fong Ling and Fong Qin, Fong Yu didn't dare to be disrespectful because of Fong Qingwei, so she answered respectfully. "Second miss asked me to tell you that first miss will probably be back in a few days. Besides, the weather is good today, so it's a good time to go hunting. She wants to go hunting outside the city. So, she asked me to ask third young master if you want to go for a walk." "Oh, really?" Fong Qingxue was coming back. It seemed like the grand scheme was about to begin. At this moment, Fong Qingshan's tone became a little strange. He nodded and said, "Go and tell second sister that it's good to take a walk." "All right. Since young master doesn't want to go, I'll reply to miss." Fong Yu nodded and replied subconsciously. Because of his health, although Fong Qingshan didn't give up on himself, he still had a low self-esteem. Every time Fong Qingwei invited him to go out for a walk, he would always refuse. After so many times, even Fong Yu and the other servants knew that it was just a formality. Unexpectedly, Fong Qingshan actually agreed, so Fong Yu didn't know how to react for a while. Hearing Fong Yu's words, Fong Ling and Fong Qin became anxious. They secretly pulled the corner of Fong Yu's clothes and shook their heads, but didn't dare to speak. Although young master was still the same and treated them the same, Fong Ling and Fong Qin were people who had been with Fong Qingshan for a long time. They naturally knew that Fong Qingshan had changed since a year ago. Not to mention other things, Fong Qingshan's body, although it looked the same as before, had basically recovered a long time ago. It was just that illness came like a landslide and went away like spinning silk. On the surface, he still looked sickly. As for cultivation, a year ago, Fong Qingshan was only in the realm of nourishing his health. Even Fong Ling and Fong Qin couldn't compare to him. However, in this year, the two of them witnessed how Fong Qingshan improved by leaps and bounds, jumping 3 levels in a row. Therefore, although Fong Qingshan did not change much in the past, he imperceptibly gave the two of them a kind of majesty. He did not have to be angry, so the two of them did not dare to go overboard. At this moment, Fong Yu's behavior, to put it in a small way, was not focused. How could she do a good job for her master? To put it in a big way, she didn't have the third young master in her heart and looked down on the main family. That would be a great sin. After being reminded by Fong Ling and Fong Qin, Fong Yu finally came to her senses. Thinking of what she had done just now, her face turned blue and then purple, and she was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. Of course, different from Fong Ling and Fong Qin, she was not afraid of Fong Qingshan, but Fong Qingwei. Once Fong Qingwei knew what had happened, she could imagine what would happen to her. "Young master, please forgive me. Fong Yu hurriedly apologized. "That's enough." Fong Qingshan waved his hand, took the handkerchief handed by Fong Ling, wiped his mouth, and said in the same tone, "It's okay. Just be careful in the future." "Thank you, young master. I'll leave now." Fong Yu couldn't stay any longer after making such a big fool of herself. She hurriedly said goodbye and left. "Well, go ahead. I'll be right there." Fong Qingshan nodded. After Fong Yu left, Fong Ling and Fong Qin carefully removed the things on the table mountain and looked at Fong Qingshan. His eyes were gazing into the distance, but there was no focus. They knew that he was thinking about something, so they didn't disturb him and quietly left. I'm going to see the big sister soon, the reincarnation of the Electric Mother. And that Fong Han, the main character. The big picture is about to be revealed. Looking into the distance, Fong Qingshan murmured to himself. I've been here for more than a year. It seems that my plan can also start. Yes, this Fong Qingshan was no longer the original Fong Qingshan. He was still the same person, but his core had changed. The current Fong Qingshan was the last cultivator on the aquamarine planet in the age of Dharma ending. Unfortunately, since it was the age of Dharma ending, immortals and gods didn't exist, and it was difficult for cultivators to continue. Although Fong Qingshan had a firm will and unswerving determination, he had traveled all over Green Mountain, but he was already old, and his cultivation state was not much better. Alas, alas, who is with me? It was unclear whether Fong Qingshan's persistence had touched the heaven, or heaven and earth also knew that he had reached the point where he would change if he was poor, or if he didn't change, he would completely give up on healing. Once, when Fong Qingshan was looking for an opportunity to break through in Mount Kunlun, he suddenly encountered an earthquake. There were tens of thousands of rays of light. Celestial chi soared into the sky. Heavenly music was loud, and golden flowers fell. It was as if heaven and earth were celebrating. The whole world was alarmed. A chessboard soared into the sky and smashed directly onto him. The result was obvious. Although Fong Qingshan was the only cultivator in the age of Dharma ending, he was still immortal, so he couldn't withstand the blow from such a precious treasure. He was smashed into pieces on the spot. Fortunately, he didn't die. His soul was taken by the chessboard through time and space, and he came to the immortal world in the novel that Fong Qingshan had read, and he took over the body of a young master of the Fong family who didn't appear in the novel. Chapter 3. Now this chessboard was lying quietly in Fong Qingshan's Naiwan Palace, emitting a fluorescent light. One of the chess pieces on it had been lit up, which symbolized the immortal world. There was another chess piece in a half-lit state. If this chess piece was completely lit up, Fong Qingshan could continue to the next world. Like humans, all things in the world had a limited lifespan. Unless one became a zenith heaven immortal, all time and space were eternal. Otherwise, even the planets and even the heavens and the earth were the same. It was just that life was short and grass grew for one autumn. The lifespan of the heavens and the earth and the planets had been so long that it was immeasurable, so they were mistakenly thought to be immortal. Legend has it that a world or a star was about to reach the end of its life, or because of some major change, it had reached the time when it had to change. In this world, the stars were likely to give birth to the most top-notch treasures. Any type of treasure could be born. It could be killing, it could be defense, it could be auxiliary, it could be tower, cauldron bell, even mirror, pearl, flag, and so on. But one thing was certain, and that was that such treasures were very heaven-defying. If it was a killing treasure, it must be extremely dangerous. Once it was born, it would have the destructive power to destroy the world. If it was a defensive treasure, it would also have the magical effect of being untouchable. As for auxiliary magic treasures, there were many more functions. And the chessboard in Fong Qingshan's hand was the aquamarine planet. In the cultivation era, the last luck and the escaped one merged together and finally gave birth to the supreme treasure. This could be regarded as an auxiliary treasure. There were 3,000 chess pieces on it, representing the 3,000 great ways and 3,000 worlds. It could take Fong Qingshan to travel between the heavens and the earth, but the premise was that he had to light up the chess pieces on the chessboard first. There was only one way to light up the chess pieces on the chessboard, and that was to improve luck and cultivation. In fact, in the final analysis, the improvement of cultivation also indirectly improved luck. Generally speaking, a person's luck was predetermined, and it was not easy to change it. Once the luck changed, it meant that his fate had also changed. As for the methods to obtain fate, as mentioned earlier, increasing one's cultivation base was one of the methods. Other than that, strengthening one's clan and receiving rewards from the country were also possible. That said, the All-Heaven chessboard was not just an auxiliary magic treasure. In terms of attack power, it was probably not weak either. In fact, it was very violent. A single chess piece was equivalent to a world. Although it could not be compared to a real world, it was clear that it was still very powerful. In terms of defense, although it did not have any support, it still had its offensive capabilities. That was why Fang Qingshan's All-Heaven chessboard could be considered a comprehensive magic treasure. Unfortunately, this chessboard was only a half-finished product, and only 1.5 pieces had been lit up. There was a reason why the All-Heaven chessboard had chosen Fang Qingshan to possess. First of all, Fang Qingshan was congenitally deficient, and his soul was weak. This way, it would be easy to possess him, and there wouldn't be too many problems. Moreover, although he had no worries about food and clothing in the Fang family, he was not taken seriously, so he would not be noticed by outsiders and would not attract attention, just giving the host time to change. Of course, the most important thing is that the Fang family, as the starting point of a mortal world, has great luck. Not to mention the eldest lady, Fang Qingxue, is the reincarnation of the ancient electric mother. A mere servant is actually the protagonist, which gives Fang Qingshan the opportunity to fish in troubled waters and steal the luck. Fang Qingshan has been in a mortal world for about a year. The reason why he didn't do anything extra and stayed in the small courtyard with a clear conscience was that he was waiting for the starting point in addition to recuperating his body. Fang Qingshan remembered that Fang Qingxue had broken through to the secret plane of divinity, and even the Emperor of Dali had to come and reward her. The fortune of the whole Fang family was really like a flower, a dragon, and a phoenix. In ancient times, it was all about the family, the country, and the world. First there was a family, then there was a country. The family was very important to a person. The Fang family was promoted as one of the masters of the Fang family. Although he was not valued, Fang Qingshan naturally shared a part of it. In addition, he was going to make a good karma with the protagonist. Like Lu Buwei, he invested in advance before he made his fortune and got the protagonist's gratitude. The protagonist was favored by the luck of heaven and earth, and he was grateful to himself, and he would surely be able to share some luck. In this way, the improvement of his own cultivation, the blessing of the family's luck, and the protagonist's luck would surely help him light up a chess piece. For Fang Qingshan, the biggest advantage in a mortal world is not having Fang Qingxue as a big backer, nor is it prescience, but the all-heaven chessboard that brought him to this world. The way of heaven is to lose excess and make up for deficiency. The way of man is to lose insufficient and make up for excess. With the 3,000 worlds worshipping himself, he can confidently say that even the protagonist Fang Han can't compare with him at all. As for why he didn't use his prescience to rob Fang Han's opportunity, Fang Qingshan just wanted to say that the idea was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. Immortal world is different from other low-level worlds. It is too dangerous. In Fang Qingshan's current state, he may die before he even gets out of Longyuan province. At the moment, he can only touch the 9 cycles golden elixir and the diagram of the underworld. However, that thing is still in the hands of Bai Haichan. Although he is seriously injured, he is still a disciple of Astral Sect. A skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. Moreover, because he is being chased by the Fang family, if Fang Qingshan doesn't care about his life and goes to seize it, I'm afraid that the best result is not only not getting the treasure, but also exposing the all-heaven chessboard. That is really trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. The gains do not make up for the losses. Moreover, the diagram of the underworld is not a dead object. In fact, there is a spirit, not the protagonist, not Fang Han. Fang Qingshan doesn't think he can easily subdue it. Therefore, before he is strong enough, it is better not to try to take it by force. It is also excellent to do something within his power. Although the all-heaven chessboard, the 9 cycles golden elixir, and the diagram of the underworld are good, when his strength is improved, it is not impossible to get something similar or even better than him. Therefore, these 2 things are not worth the risk for Fang Qingshan at all. Of course, when Fang Qingshan has enough strength to deal with everything, he will naturally not let go of those treasures. On the road to the Great Way, it is a struggle to be alone. If you don't take the gift from heaven, you will be punished. Although saying it this way might be a little confusing, this was the truth. That was then, and this was now. Young master, Are we going to set off? At this moment, Fong Ling's voice sounded in Fong Qingshan's ear. Fong Han, I'm coming. Fong Qingshan came back to his senses, looked up at the time, and nodded. Let's go. In this way, a group of 3 people rushed to the horse farm. Chapter 4. You've done a good job in raising my horse, which shows that you've always been conscientious, but Fong Qingwei sat on the 1,000 miles of snow and stared coldly at the boy kneeling in front of her. She said lightly, Today, you've failed in your duty. I don't want to ask why. I only know that merit must be rewarded and mistakes must be punished. Since you've made a mistake, you have to accept the punishment. This is your first offense, and you've worked hard even if you haven't done anything, so I'll give you 10 lashes as a warning. Do you accept it? Fong Qingshan brought Fong Ling and Fong Qin to the stud farm. From afar, he heard Fong Qingwei's emotionless voice. From afar, he saw a servant kneeling on the ground, nodding his head vigorously and saying with fear and trepidation, I accept it. Seeing this, although Fong Qingshan had never seen Fong Han before, he immediately understood that this was Fong Han. At the same time, he sighed with emotion. When the heavens conferred a great responsibility on a man, it first tormented his will, exhausted his muscles and bones, starved his skin, emptied his body, and messed up his actions. Therefore, he had to be patient and do what he couldn't. It was true. Fortunately, the person chosen by the all-heaven chessboard was congenitally deficient and not valued enough. But at least his character wouldn't be humiliated and he would be well fed. Very good. Hearing that Fong Han didn't refute her and directly accepted the punishment, Fong Qingwei's expressionless face softened. She waved her sleeves and said, In that case, Fong Qiu. Yes. A servant girl next to her gave the order. She immediately picked up the horsewhip and was about to lash it at Fong Han. Wait a minute. At this moment, a gentle but authoritative voice rang in everyone's ears. Looking towards the source of the voice, they saw a slightly thin playboy walking over with 2 servant girls. It was Fong Qingshan who spoke. The reason why he came today was not because he wanted to go hunting with Fong Qingwei, but because he cared about Fong Han. Of course, he would not let him be whipped. Since Fong Qingshan was used to staying indoors except for important events such as worshipping the ancestors, many servants might not recognize him. Therefore, when he saw this strange and weak man daring to interrupt Fong Qingwei, he couldn't help but praise him for being so bold. At the same time, he couldn't help but look at him with a trace of pity. Although Fong Qingwei was a young woman, she had a good aptitude for cultivation. Her father was the head of the Fong clan and the governor of the Dragon Lake province, and her sister was a disciple of the Ascension sect, one of the top 10 immortal sects. Therefore, she was quite respected in the Fong clan. Fong Qingshan, on the other hand, was a nobody, yet he dared to challenge her dignity. In the eyes of the crowd, he was simply courting death. However, the people around Fong Qingwei were quite familiar with Fong Qingshan. They also knew that this lady had a good attitude towards him and did not dare to act on her own. Fong Qiu, who was holding the whip, hesitated for a moment and looked at Fong Qingwei. Originally, Fong Qingwei's face was a little pale. Today, in front of so many outsiders, her servants had made a fool of themselves, and someone had challenged her dignity, which made her lose a lot of face. However, when she saw that it was her 3rd brother, her face immediately softened. In particular, before Fong Qingshan came near, Fong Qingwei took the lead to greet him. Seeing this, the people who didn't understand the situation were surprised and began to doubt Fong Qingshan's identity. 3rd brother, you're finally willing to come out of your room. Looking at Fong Qingshan, Fong Qingwei teased. Her smile was really like a flower, blinding the titanium alloy eyes of the people on the ground. At the same time, they all realized that this person was the sickly man of the Fong clan. After knowing who he was, the little bit of curiosity and desire to curry favor with him was immediately forgotten. 2nd sister, you must be joking. Fong Qingshan shook his head with a smile and pointed at Fong Han. It's not easy for me to come out today, and I'm afraid it's inauspicious to see blood. So, I want to ask for a favor. How about letting this person go this time? That's fine. In this regard, Fong Qingwei nodded indifferently. He was just a servant, and it didn't matter whether he was beaten or scolded, spared or let go. Naturally, Fong Qingwei would not refuse Fong Qingshan's face. She waved her hand to let Fong Qiu come back. Fong Qingwei glanced at Fong Han indifferently and said, "Since third young master is pleading for you, today's offense will be remembered. Be careful in the future, or else you will be punished for both offenses. Don't say I didn't warn you." "Thank you, second miss, third young master. I will engrave this in my heart and dare not neglect it." Hearing that he didn't have to be whipped, Fong Han felt lucky and quickly kowtowed to express his gratitude, pointing to the sky and swearing. Seeing this, Fong Qingshan was secretly amused. He naturally knew what kind of person Fong Han was. Life was really like a play, and it all depended on acting skills. "Well, it's almost time. Third brother, let's go," Fong Qingwei said to Fong Qingshan. "Huh?" Fong Qingshan chuckled and looked at the group of young masters and ladies in the distance, as if they didn't see him. He said indifferently, "Since there are outsiders, I won't go. Next time, I just didn't keep the appointment. Please forgive me, second sister." "Huh?" Fong Qingwei frowned and looked in the direction of Fong Qingshan's gaze. She couldn't help but sigh. In that group of people, the more sophisticated ones didn't show it on their faces. They just had a faint smile on their faces, neither distant nor intimate. The less sophisticated ones just showed a hint of indifference. She knew that the reason was that her third brother didn't have the aptitude for cultivation. She couldn't help but wonder if eldest sister brought back elixirs this time. She hoped she wouldn't let her third brother down. If that's the case, then fine. Thousands of thoughts flashed through her mind, but Fong Qingwei didn't show it on her face. She looked at Fong Qingshan and comforted him. "Don't be discouraged, third brother. Eldest sister may have good news this time." "Let's hope so." Fong Qingshan nodded in agreement. All medicines were poisonous. No elixir could be more effective than luck. Although Fong Qingshan looked the same as before, his congenital deficiencies had long been repaired by the last bit of luck of the chessboard the moment he crossed over. After saying a few more words to Fong Qingshan, Fong Qingwei took the group of young masters and ladies and left angrily on horseback. Although the strength of the Fong family was good, the strength of these young masters and ladies couldn't be ignored. Fong Qingwei naturally couldn't vent her anger on them just because they looked down on her brother and didn't mock him. On the contrary, she had to win them over for her father's generation. This was actually the way of a child of a big family. With the departure of Fong Qingwei and her group, except for Fong Ling, Fong Qin, and Fong Han, the others all walked away as if nothing had happened. "Humph, what a snob!" Seeing this scene, even Fong Qin, who was usually gentle, couldn't help but feel unfair for Fong Qingshan. Chapter 5. "Yes, young master, you've recovered. Why didn't you tell the first master, and second miss?" Fong Ling said indignantly. If they know that young master has not only recovered, but also made great progress in cultivation, they will be very happy. At that time, those snobs will dare to look down on young master. "Huh?" Hearing this, Fong Han, who had yet to leave, thought about how he had to personally thank Fong Qingshan in private. His eyes could not help but flash with a glimmer of light. He could be considered an old member of the Fong clan, so he naturally knew what kind of person this third young master of the Fong clan was. The reason why he was still here was not because he wanted to curry favor with him, but rather because he had the time to practice the martial arts that he had secretly learned. However, he didn't expect that he would discover a huge secret by accident. The sickly third young master had actually made up for his congenital deficiencies and made great progress in cultivation. If others knew about this, it would definitely cause a sensation. "It's not time yet," Fong Qingshan said indifferently. Then he looked at Fong Han, who had his head lowered as if he had heard nothing. He could not help but chuckle. "They've all left. Why are you still here?" Hearing this, Fong Qin and Fong Ling realized that there were outsiders. They had accidentally revealed their master's secret. Their cheeks suddenly turned pale, but their eyes were cold as they looked at Fong Han. Obviously, they wanted to kill him. Fong Han was cautious and sensitive. When Fong Ling and Fong Qin's killing intent rose, he felt his hair stand on end. He could not help but complain in his heart. Only then did he remember that the third young master had recovered. Even the first master, second master, and second miss did not know about it, but he accidentally found out. Wasn't this forcing the third young master to kill him? Although all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, he did not show it on his face. He only said with deep gratitude, "This lowly one wants to personally thank third young master for saving my life. In the future, if there is anything you need me to do, I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire." Really? Fong Qingshan said casually. Well, I have something to discuss with you. This is not the place to talk. Come back to the courtyard with me. Then, ignoring Fong Han, Fong Qingshan turned around and left. Seeing this, Fong Han's body suddenly stiffened. He thought that Fong Qingshan was going to kill him. Cold sweat suddenly broke out, soaking his clothes. Especially Fong Ling and Fong Qin, standing on his left and right, looked at him strangely, which made Fong Han's soul almost leave his body. Unfortunately, the arrow was already on the bowstring and had to be released. There was no room for hesitation. As for escaping, it would be wishful thinking for someone like him, who did not know any martial arts, to escape from Longyuan province, which was controlled by the Fong clan, let alone Fong Ling and Fong Ling. He would probably be captured before he could even escape 100 meters. Rain Admiration Pavilion. It was also Fong Qingshan's small courtyard, which meant that the remnant Lotus listened to the sound of the rain. A while after Fong Qingshan returned, Fong Ling and Fong Qin walked in with the dawdling Fong Han. Bang! The two closed the door and completely cut off Fong Han's escape route. Hearing the sound, Fong Han could not help but tremble, which made Fong Qingshan laugh. What? Am I so unlucky? Why are you so reluctant to come? Fong Qingshan asked, pretending to be displeased. I dare not. It's the first time I've come to the place where you live. I was so scared that I forgot the time. Please forgive me, third young master. This guy deserved to be the protagonist. Even though he had not risen to power yet, his wit and temperament were first class. Seeing that there was no way out, he gradually calmed down, which made Fong Qingshan nod. Forget it. Don't do it again. Fong Qingshan waved his hand and asked Fong Ling and Fong Qin to leave. He took Fong Han to the central room and sat down in the main seat. He pointed at Fong Han and said, "Sit." I dare not. Although Fong Han had regained his composure, Fong Qingshan had become a temperamental person in his eyes. He didn't dare to take him seriously when he asked him to sit down at this time. There is no place for me in front of you, young master. Suit yourself. Since he didn't want to sit, Fong Qingshan naturally wouldn't force him. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip without saying anything. For a moment, the central room couldn't help but become quiet. It was as if the sound of breathing and heartbeats could be heard. Clang! After a while, Fong Qingshan suddenly knocked the teacup in his hand on the table and said coldly, Fong Han, how dare you? Fong Han, how dare you? Even at this time, you still dare to sit on the fishing platform and not confess. Tell me, how should a servant who learned martial arts in secret be punished? Fong Han, who was breaking out in a cold sweat because of the increasingly tense atmosphere, was undoubtedly struck by lightning when he heard this. No matter how good his temperament was, he was just a kid before he made his fortune. How could he withstand Fong Qingshan's trick? It's over. This was the only thought in Fong Han's mind. For a moment, his face was ashen. Old Demon Fong, you deserve this. In the future, you will be all-powerful and fearless, but today, you are scared to death by me. Seeing this, Fong Qingshan could not help but feel a surge of pleasure, as if he had eaten a plate of iced watermelon in the summer. I am guilty of the death penalty. Please punish me, third young master. Fong Qingshan did not speak for a long time, which allowed Fong Han to recover. He knelt on the ground and said in fear and trepidation. At this time, he realized that if Fong Qingshan really wanted to kill him or expose his information, he would not have to go through so much trouble. Moreover, he did not have to save him at the horse farm. He could have taken advantage of the situation and exposed the fact that he had learned martial arts in secret. At that time, he would definitely be dead. In this case, Fong Han knew that Fong Qingshan must have some other purpose. Although he did not know the specific situation, he knew that his life was saved. Well, get up, no need to pretend anymore. Fong Qingshan waved his hand. He did not want to waste any more time. He said lightly, "In the future, you can openly practice martial arts. If anyone asks, tell them that I taught it to you." "Thank you, young master. In the future, if you have any orders, I will not frown even if you ask me to die." One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. However, he was just a servant, and even his life belonged to someone else. There was nothing to be spied on. Although puzzled, Fong Han immediately agreed. After experiencing the life and death of Fong Qingwei and Fong Qingshan, he understood the words that his father told him. It is better to be a beggar than a slave. If he wanted to change his fate, the only way was to practice martial arts. Die? That's not necessary. It's not that serious. Fong Qingshan shook his head. You just need to promise me a few conditions. Chapter 6. The Golden Qilin was not an ordinary creature. Once it encountered a storm, it would transform into a dragon. Although Fong Han was in dire straits now, he was just a hidden dragon in the abyss. Once the dragon soared to the sky, his rise would be unstoppable. If Fong Han really used this as a threat, regardless of whether Fong Han's words were credible, Fong Han's actions today would become a thorn in Fong Han's heart in the future. Although Fong Qingshan was not afraid of him, it was better to have a friend than an enemy. Therefore, he did not want to use this to tie Fong Han down and make him do anything for him. It was just an exchange. In this way, it was good for you, good for me, and good for everyone. Young master, you are too serious. Fong Han is a servant of the Fong family. Everything of Fong Han belongs to the Fong family. If you need anything, just say it. As long as Fong Han has it, I will not refuse. Seeing that Fong Qingshan did not use this as a threat to force him to do anything, Fong Han could not help but feel relieved. At the same time, he could not help but laugh at himself. Fong Han, who do you think you are? The young master of the Fong family really wants a servant. If he wants something, it won't be your turn. You really think you are smart. Sly. Seeing Fong Han speak so resolutely and righteously, Fong Qingshan could not help but curse in his heart. At this moment, Fong Han was like a dragon swimming in shallow waters. Even he himself was a member of the Fong family. If Fong Qingshan wanted something from him, it would be a piece of cake for him. But the problem was that he had nothing good at the moment. Okay, don't talk about this. Fong Qingshan did not want to continue talking with Fong Han. He went straight to the point and said, "Let me ask you, I can let you practice martial arts openly and even take you to Emergence Sect, one of the top 10 immortal sects, in exchange for something. Do you agree?" Maybe you don't know Emergence Sect. Without waiting for Fong Han to speak, Fong Qingshan continued, "What do you think of Fong Tong?" "Very good." Fong Han was stunned. He did not know why Fong Qingshan asked this, but he still answered honestly. A person like him can't even be compared to the outer disciples of the Emergence Sect. Fong Qingshan said without a trace of emotion. And in the Emergence Sect, the outer court disciple is the lowest existence. Above them are the inner court disciple, true disciple, elder, deputy sect master, sect master. Therefore, Fong Tong's status in the Emergence Sect is far worse than her status in the Fong family. Do you understand now? With that said, Fong Han certainly understood. In an instant, he couldn't help but breathe heavily. He didn't expect that Fong Tong, who was like a celestial being in his eyes, couldn't even become an outer disciple in the Emergence Sect. This showed how powerful the Emergence Sect was. Fong Han, who was determined to practice martial arts and change his fate, had an unprecedented yearning for the Emergence Sect at this moment. How is it? My conditions are not bad, right? Fong Qingshan seemed to see through Fong Han's thoughts and said lightly, "As long as you become a disciple of the Emergence Sect, not to mention the Fong family, even the Dali Kingdom will treat you as a distinguished guest." "Oh." Fong Han closed his eyes and let out a long sigh, calming himself down. When he opened his eyes again, there was no more passion in them. Instead, They were as calm as a deep pool. Why me? Fong Han asked calmly. I'm just a servant of the Fong family. I don't have a backer, and I don't have the qualifications. Why does the young master think I can do what you asked me to do? Sure enough, unsuccessful people have their own failures. Successful people have a firm heart. They pulled themselves out of their desires so quickly and calmly thought about problems. It would be strange if such a person didn't succeed. Looking at Fong Han with appreciation, Fong Qingshan said, I foresee that you will be extraordinary in the future. Now you are a hidden dragon in the abyss. Once the dragon rises to the sky is high and the sea is wide. Do you believe me? Looking into Fong Qingshan's eyes, Fong Han calmed down and nodded affirmatively. I believe you. Oh, why? Fong Qingshan asked. Because the young master has no reason to lie to me. Fong Han said lightly. Well, I like to talk to smart people. Fong Qingshan smiled and nodded. How about this? I'll exchange these conditions for a few promises. Are you willing to do it now? Don't worry, it won't endanger your life. It may be almost impossible for you now, but it will be easy in the future, Fong Qingshan added. I wonder if the young master can tell me the conditions first. Fong Han said cautiously. Of course. Fong Qingshan could not deny this. I want you to agree to my conditions. First, after you make a fortune, I want 1/10 of your luck. Second, I want you to give me 10 top magical powers, including the Great Five Elements technique and the Great Reincarnation technique. Third, your surname is Fong after all. Although you are a servant of the Fong family, I don't ask you to take care of the Fong family in the future, but at least don't cause trouble for the Fong family. Can you do these 3 conditions? It was not that Fong Qingshan did not want to mention more. First, it was not necessary. He already had foresight. As long as his cultivation improved, he could naturally find those opportunities before Fong Han. For Fong Qingshan, the most precious thing in Fong Han's body was his luck as the protagonist. It was really rolling like clouds, turning misfortune into fortune, and turning misfortune into fortune. Second was the Great Five Elements technique and the Great Reincarnation technique, which were almost unique to Fong Han. As for the third condition, although he and Fong Qingxue were here, and Fong Han should not be able to take revenge on the Fong family, since he had inherited this body, he naturally had karma with the Fong family. Naturally, he had to do his part. In addition, if the conditions were too excessive, it would be no different from trying to subdue and enslave Fong Han. He did not know much about it now. Even if he agreed, it would be easy to go back on his word in the future and make enemies. After hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Fong Han was stunned. He had thought that Fong Qingshan would ask for an exorbitant price, but he did not expect it to be so unexpected. There was no need to mention the third condition. Although the Fong family did not treat him well, there was no hatred between them. Moreover, the Fong family was very powerful. He was not crazy enough to vent his anger on the entire Fong family just because he was a servant of the Fong family. As for the first and second conditions, luck and supernatural powers, Fong Han did not know. However, from the way Fong Qingshan coveted it, it must be something good, but it was nothing to Fong Han, not to mention the supernatural powers. After he cultivated those things, it was not a big deal to tell Fong Qingshan. It was not that he could not cultivate them, but of course the prerequisite was that he had them. Although he did not know much about luck, from the perspective of luck, he had some ideas. He vaguely felt that compared to supernatural powers, luck seemed to be more important to him. However, he did not hesitate to agree to Fong Qingshan's conditions. Chapter 7. You have to think about it carefully. Seeing that Fong Han only thought for a moment and agreed without hesitation, Fong Qingshan could not help but be a little surprised. Fong Han knew that Fong Han did not understand very well, so he personally explained. Luck is the most mysterious thing. Although it can't be seen or touched, it is closely related to you and me. People with good luck can turn bad luck into good luck. Treasures of heaven and earth will come to their door automatically, or they can be found by stepping on the roadside. People with poor luck can't even drink cold water. People sit at home and disaster comes from the sky. As for the 10 top-notch great magical powers, They include the Great Five Elements technique and the Great Reincarnation technique. You should know that even the Emergent sect only has the Great Yin-Yang technique. From this, it can be seen how precious it is. It might even involve your unique technique. So you better think about it. After a little explanation, Fang Qingshan said slowly. He did not want to deceive Fang Han. He did not want to agree carelessly and regret it in the future. There's no need to think about it. I agree. Who knew that as soon as his voice fell, Fang Han did not even think about it and replied resolutely. Fang Qingshan could not help but frown. Why? You have to be willing. You have to be willing. Fang Han said very calmly. There is no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and there is no such thing as unconditional love in the world. Young master allowed me, a servant, to practice martial arts and brought me into an immortal sect like Emergent sect. After investing so much, it is natural for me to want benefits. What's more, you didn't lie to me and told me all these benefits. How can I not know what's good for me? Although luck is important, it is only 1 out of 10. The remaining 9 should be enough and won't hurt the foundation. As for divine powers, even the Emergent sect only has 1. I don't know why the eldest young master is so sure that I will get so many, but as long as I have them, I will definitely not refuse. I don't agree with any unique skills. Divine powers are dead, but people are alive. In the end, it all depends on who uses it. In fact, there was one more thing that Fang Han did not mention. Although Fang Qingshan said that he could predict his future, he was still a slave. The future was always changing. Perhaps it was because he had agreed to Fang Qingshan's conditions that he had changed. If he didn't agree, even if Fang Qingshan's character was super good and he didn't mind, he definitely wouldn't allow him to use his name to practice martial arts. If he wanted to defy the heavens and change his fate like this, he didn't know when he would become an outstanding person. Once it was exposed that he secretly learned martial arts, only death would await him, not to mention entering a big sect like Emergent sect. Therefore, he actually had no other choice. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan was like the wind and the moon. He did not deceive himself because he was weak, which left a good impression on Fang Han. What a strong-willed and transparent man. Hearing Fang Han's words, Fang Qingshan's eyes were full of admiration. If that's the case, I hope you won't regret it in the future. Never. Fang Han shook his head firmly. Even if the decision he made was wrong, he would not regret it. He would carry on even if he cried and knelt down. Most successful people were a little stubborn. In that case, you can go. Since his purpose had been achieved, Fang Qingshan was not willing to say anything more to Fang Han. He waved his hand and let him go. Yes. Fang Han saluted and left respectfully. He walked out of the Rain Admiration Pavilion and looked back. He knew that from this moment on, his fate would be different. Although he had paid a price, there was no free lunch in this world. You had to pay to get what you wanted. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. The clouds were clear, and the wind was gentle. Outside the city, beside the Dragon Abyss River, amidst the reeds, a bloated figure was focused on leaping around like a toad. Taking a closer look, one would realize that it was a skinny man with all kinds of sandbags hanging all over his body, grinding his strength. This person was none other than Fang Han. Logically speaking, he had been promised by Fang Qingshan that he could use his name to practice martial arts. There was no need for him to hide anymore, and he could practice openly. However, he did not. He understood that the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind, and the tallest pile on the shore would be destroyed by the current. He was just a small servant. Even someone like the third young master had to hide his strength, let alone him. Before he became strong enough, Fang Han decided to hide the fact that he was practicing martial arts. Therefore, everything was back to square one. Wealth, companionship, technique, and land were the 4 elements of cultivation. Wealth came first, and technique came third. Although Fang Han had secretly learned the Fang family's fist technique, martial arts was not something that could be practiced with just the technique. The poor studied and the rich learned. As a servant, his body was not in good shape. If he forced himself to practice fist technique without nutrition, it would not be long before he killed himself. Bang! After practicing for an hour, when Fang Han tried to jump again, he He felt dizzy and saw stars. His legs gave way, and he fell on his buttocks, just like a wild goose falling on the sand. Sigh. The poor studied and the rich learned. The disciples of the Fong family eat ginseng and birds' nest every day. If I want to practice properly, I'm afraid I have to find a way to get some money to buy medicine. Lying on the ground, Fong Han could not help but sigh. He had not practiced before and had eagerly looked forward to practicing. Now that he had practiced, he realized that it was not that easy. Things in life did not always go according to one's wishes. It was true, but I'm just a servant. Where can I find money? Fong Han thought in distress. Should I look for the third young master? However, this thought flashed through his mind. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would never trouble Fong Qingshan again. Why else would Fong Han be the protagonist? When he dozed off, a pillow was immediately passed to him. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, there was a sudden sound from the reeds by the river. Fong Han was a vigilant person. He immediately endured the soreness in his body and got up. Like a leopard, he jumped into the reeds and hid. After waiting for a long time and seeing no movement, he tiptoed out. He approached the place where the sound came from and took a closer look. His pupils suddenly shrank. He saw a corpse floating on the shore. The corpse was dressed in luxurious clothes. It was obvious that he was either a powerful person or a rich person. Such a person had actually died here. With the thought that it was better to avoid trouble, Fong Han turned around to leave. However, just as he turned around, he could not help but stop in his tracks. Looking back at the corpse's luxurious clothes, he could not help but lick his dry lips. He had just been worrying about how to get some money to buy supplements. Wasn't it ready-made now? Thinking of this, Fong Han could not care less about trouble. The bold would be stuffed to death, and the timid would starve to death. Chapter 8. Fong Han fished the body out of the river and rummaged through his body, but he did not find any money. Instead, he broke out in a cold sweat. His body was swollen from being soaked in the water, and there were many man-made wounds. His back looked like it had been struck by lightning. Obviously, this person's death was unusual. Fong Han regretted his actions at this moment. However, humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. For the sake of his own cultivation, Fong Han gritted his teeth and quickly searched the body, hoping to get something valuable as soon as possible so he could leave as soon as possible. Suddenly, Fong Han felt something cold in his hand. He was overjoyed. He reached out and took out a black iron box from the corpse's chest, along with a scroll. Everything else was fine, but when Fong Han saw the golden lock on the black iron box, his eyes lit up. In case anything bad happened, he put the black iron box and the scroll into his arms, stood up, and was about to leave this place. What? You're going to leave after taking the things? You didn't even ask if I, the owner, agreed. At this moment, a faint voice sounded in his ear. Fong Han suddenly froze and slowly turned around. He did not know when the body had sat up. He was so scared that he stepped back and fell to the ground. He stammered, "Are you a human or a ghost? Have you ever seen a ghost with a shadow?" The body asked lightly. Fong Han looked at it and was relieved. In the moonlight, there was a long shadow behind the body. "So you're still alive. In that case, I'll return these things to their rightful owner." Although he was reluctant, Fong Han was good at judging the situation. He took out the black iron box and the scroll from his arms and pushed them in front of the body. "You're bold but careful. You know when to advance and when to retreat. You're not bad." The body looked at Fong Han with appreciation and sighed. "If I, Bai Hai-chan, had been like that, I wouldn't be in this mess today. Lad, who are you?" Bai Hai-chan asked casually after reminiscing for a while. "I'm a servant of the Fong family." Fong Han did not know this person's temperament, so he did not dare lie. A servant of the Fong family? Bai Hai-chan revealed a ferocious look of hatred on his face. If it wasn't for the Fong clan, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Originally, Bai Hai-chan wanted to kill Fong Han to vent his anger. However, after looking around, he suddenly changed his mind. After a while, Bai Hai-chan's expression softened. He looked at Fong Han with a faint smile. "It seems that you are also a restless and ambitious person." "Good. Very good, very good. Ha ha." Fong family, Fong Qing Shui. Just you wait, Bai Hai Chan let out a strange laugh in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. Boy, it's not enough for a person to be ambitious. It's almost impossible for a slave like you to stand out. But since you've met me, your luck has changed. A change in luck? Fong Han asked doubtfully, but in his heart, he was thinking that his luck had turned for the better half a day ago. Not bad. Bai Hai Chan nodded and said patiently, as long as you agree to a few of my conditions, I'll give you a great fortune. In the future, it won't be a problem for you to break through the divine power and even become an immortal. Break through the divine power? Fong Han's eyes suddenly lit up. As for becoming an immortal, he subconsciously ignored it. He calmed down and asked cautiously, what are the conditions? The scene in front of him was really familiar. As he asked this, Fong Han suddenly thought of the third young master, Fong Qingshan. For no reason, a thought arose in her mind. Could it be that he really predicted her future? Thinking of this, Fong Han could not help but feel a deep sense of fear towards Fong Qingshan. As long as you succeed in your cultivation, avenge me and destroy the Fong family. Seeing that Fong Han could still maintain a clear mind in this situation, Bai Hai Chan could not help but secretly nod. When he said this, his face was ferocious. Destroy the Fong family? Fong Han was stunned for a moment and was even more certain that Fong Qingshan had predicted all of this. Because of this, he did not dare to agree. He did not even dare to feign civility. He shook his head firmly and said, no, although I'm only a servant of the Fong family. The Fong family has never mistreated me. I can't be so ungrateful. You really don't agree? Bai Hai Chan asked faintly, a deathly aura enveloping Fong Han. No. Fong Han's teeth were chattering, but he unexpectedly answered firmly. If that's the case, then change the condition. Bai Hai Chan looked deeply at Fong Han and said, in the future, when your cultivation is high enough, resurrect me and help me achieve the Tao. How about that? Although he was very unwilling, Bai Hai Chan was undoubtedly satisfied with Fong Han, so he made this condition. Okay, as long as I have the ability, I will not refuse. Fong Han replied firmly, I don't have much time. There are still some things I need to explain to you. Bai Hai Chan nodded with satisfaction. The box contains the 9 transformations golden pill, and the scroll contains the underworld diagram. Listen to the rain pavilion. In the small courtyard, Fong Qingshan's eyes were half closed. In his mind, he was visualizing a large river and the bright moon rising in the east. He calmly separated his legs, bent forward, and stepped back into the Ding Ba stance. He spread his fingers and raised his hands to form a front and back embrace. When he was standing, Wen Yiming focused on his elixir field, coordinated with his breathing, and entered a state of concentration. Just as Fong Han obtained the 9 transformations golden pill and the underworld diagram, a surge of destiny fell from the sky and went straight into Fong Qingshan's Naiwan Palace. For a moment, the originally silent chessboard suddenly shone brightly, like a baby crying piteously for food, and could not wait to swallow the milky white destiny. On the chessboard, except for a chess piece representing the immortal world that was shining like a star, and a chess piece that was as bright as a firefly, all the other chess pieces were dead silent. At this moment, after swallowing the destiny, the chess piece that was originally only as bright as a firefly suddenly shone brightly and was completely illuminated, turning into a fireball, but it was still weaker than the immortal chess piece. Obviously, the newly illuminated world was much worse than the immortal world. Brush! At the moment when the chess piece was illuminated, Fong Qingshan opened his eyes instantly. His eyes swirled like 2 stars in the night, shining brightly. It's finally lit up. It seems that the big picture has begun. I also have to speed up my cultivation. Otherwise, if I take one step slow, I will always be behind. Fong Qingshan looked up at the sky and muttered to himself. Thinking of this, Fong Qingshan could not wait to know which new world was opened. However, at this moment, there was a slight sound of footsteps in the distance. Then, he heard a confident voice. Third young master, the eldest young lady is back. On the orders of the old master, she invites you to the hall. The speaker was the Fong family's butler. Fong Mo, got it. I'll be right there. Although Fong Qingshan was impatient, he had to restrain himself at the moment. Chapter 9. Fong Qingshan followed steward Fong Mo into the meeting hall of the inner mansion and saw that 3 people were already sitting there. Of the 2 at the top, the one on the left was a middle-aged man with a pair of blue eyes, broad shoulders, and a natural majesty. The one on the right had a cold expression, like a fairy from the ninth heaven, Chong Yi of the Moon Palace. Although she did not release any aura, it seemed that the whole scene was under her control. Even the man on the left was suppressed by her. Below them sat a woman. Although she was not as beautiful as the fairy at the top, she was still beautiful enough to make the moon and flowers blush. These 3 people were the head of the Fong clan, Fong Zitao, the eldest daughter of the Fong clan, Fong Qingxue, and the second daughter of the Fong clan, Fong Qingwei. Greetings, first uncle, first sister, second sister. Qingshan, please forgive me for being late. Fong Qingshan bowed and said. Fong Zitao and Fong Qingwei were about to speak, but they saw Fong Qingshue's expression suddenly become serious. She looked at Fong Qingshan with a sharp gaze, and a mountain-like aura suddenly burst out. Fong Qingshan felt a tightness in his chest and staggered back a few steps, almost leaving the hall. Qingxue, what are you doing? Seeing this scene, Fong Zitao and Fong Qingwei were extremely shocked. They looked at Fong Qingshan worriedly. His body was already weak, and now that he was pressured by Fong Qingshue's aura, his injuries would probably worsen. Fong Qingxue withdrew her aura and looked at Fong Zitao and Fong Qingwei indifferently. Father, second sister, can't you see? What? Fong Qingwei frowned slightly. Third brother, when did you recover from your insufficiency? Fong Qingxue ignored the 2 and directly asked Fong Qingshan. What? Qingshan, your insufficiency has recovered? Fong Zitao was really surprised and happy. You, Fong Qingshan, you lied to me for so long. Fong Qingwei directly rushed over and pulled Fong Qingshan's ear, saying angrily, I dropped it. Second sister, let go of me. Fong Qingshan pretended to be in pain and begged for mercy. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh at the secret realm. It was indeed impressive. In the past year, not to mention Fong Qingwei, even Fong Zitao and Fong Zeshan had seen it, but no one had noticed anything strange about him. However, Fong Qingxue only glanced at him, and it was as if she could see through everything. Humph, let's see if you dare to do it again in the future. Fong Qingwei knew when to stop. She snorted, but she was happy for Fong Qingshan. Thank you for your concern, eldest uncle, eldest sister, and second sister. A year ago, Qingshan had a fortuitous encounter, and my insufficiency was cured without any medicine. Fong Qingshan didn't explain in detail and just said gratefully, It's good that you're fine. Originally, I wanted to help you find a 9 transformations golden pill, but it seems that there's no need for that now. Fong Qingxue did not pursue the matter and continued to speak calmly. You have a fated encounter, which means that you are also a person of great fortune. It seems that it is time for the Fong clan to prosper. Ha ha ha. Qingxue is right. It is time for the Fong clan to prosper. Fong Zitao was also very happy. Qingxue broke through to the mystery realm, and Qingshan's insufficiency is cured. This is really a double blessing. Not only that, Fong Qingxue saw that Fong Zitao was so happy, and a trace of warmth appeared on her face. I broke through to the mystery realm and became a true disciple of the emergent sect. I have a mountain, and I can bring a group of people to settle in. In addition, Elder Tianqing in the sect also gave me a few places to be an outer disciple. Qingwei can try when the time comes. This is a rare opportunity. Really? That's great. Hearing Fong Qingxue's words, Fong Zitao and Fong Qingwei exclaimed in unison. What's great? At this moment, a question came from outside the house. At this time, the person who had just broken into the Fong clan's meeting hall and interrupted the conversation of Fong Zitao and the others was Fong Zeshan. He led a group of people to search for Bai Hai Chan's whereabouts. They were busy for most of the night, but they didn't find anything. His heart was full of anger. When he returned to the house, he heard his eldest brother's surprised voice and couldn't help but be full of curiosity. Second brother is back. A man in brocade clothes with gray hair at the temples walked in with a majestic gait. Fong Zitao couldn't wait to greet him and laughed. Second brother, it's time for the Fong clan to rise. Without waiting for Fong Zeshan to ask, Fong Zitao couldn't help but tell him everything that had just happened in full detail. What? Is this true? After listening to Fong Zitao's words, Fong Zeshan naturally felt the same and was overjoyed. Especially knowing that Fong Qingshan's illness had been cured, he was even more relieved. He didn't care that he didn't catch Bai Hai Chan and get the 9 transformations golden elixir. However, a sense of dissatisfaction arose. I've been so busy for you, but you didn't even tell me that you've recovered. Fong Zeshan couldn't help but glare at Fong Qingshan, giving him a look that said, I'll deal with you later. Seeing that Fong Zeshan was younger than Fong Zitao, but already had gray hair at the temples, Fong Qingshan's heart couldn't help but ache. Seeing him glare at him, his heart couldn't help but feel warm. Speaking of which, Fong Zeshan had been treating Fong Qingshan quite well all these years. Even though he didn't care much about Fong Qingshan, he had never stopped providing all sorts of elixirs to Fong Qingshan. Otherwise, even if Fong Qingshan could survive, he would definitely be bedridden. Since I've inherited your body, your father is naturally my father. In the future, I will repay him well. Fong Qingshan silently said in his heart. In the next moment, he couldn't help but feel comfortable all over, as if he had taken a cold shower in the hottest days of the year. This feeling was also felt when he used his luck to cure his illness. At this moment, he could be considered to have complete control of this body. From now on, they were inseparable, sharing honor and disgrace. Just as Fong Zitao and Fong Zeshan were discussing which servants and core disciples to let Fong Qingxue bring, Fong Qingshan suddenly spoke. Big sister, count me in as an outer disciple. Whoosh! 4 pairs of eyes, 8 gazes, stared at Fong Qingshan in unison. An invisible pressure surged towards him, but Fong Qingshan seemed to feel nothing, as if a cool breeze had brushed past his face. Although Fong Zeshan was a bit surprised, he was the first to speak. Unfilial son, although your illness has been cured, your cultivation has been delayed for so many years. You are still far behind others. Giving you a spot is just a waste. I won't allow it. Qingshan, Fong Zitao also tactfully said, you cultivate well. If there is a spot next time, even if you don't say it, Big Uncle will still give it to you. No need, I want it this time. 1 step behind, I will always be behind. Fong Qingshan shook his head and said resolutely. You. Although Fong Zeshan also wanted to give Fong Qingshan one, he knew that it would not succeed. He would definitely not allow such a precious resource to be wasted. At this moment, Fong Qingxue spoke. Third brother, do you really want this spot? Chapter 10. Although Fong Qingxue was from the younger generation, it was obvious that the one in charge of the Fong family was not Fong Zitao, but the young lady of the Fong family. After all, strength was everything. Fong Qingxue, who had broken through the secret realm, was not only the backing of the Fong family, but also the future. Seeing Fong Qingxue speak, Fong Zeshan stopped talking. He just looked at Fong Qingshan with some worry. He was afraid that he would anger Fong Qingxue. That's right. Fong Qingshan gave Fong Zeshan a look to reassure him. He turned to look at Fong Qingxue's eyes and nodded with certainty. Do you know that being an outer disciple in the emergent sect is a rare opportunity for others? Ordinary people don't even have the qualification to participate in the selection? After a moment of silence, Fong Qingxue still spoke without any emotion. Moreover, having the qualification to participate does not mean that you become an outer disciple. Out of 10 participants, it would be good if one could stay. Fong Qingxue first downplayed the difficulty of becoming an outer disciple, then said, although your insufficiency has been cured, as second uncle said, you are still inferior to others. You are only in the firm and soft realm. If you want to become an outer disciple, you need to at least have a strong aura, or even a strong inner body. Only then you have a chance. Do you understand? Third brother, I understand your desire to become stronger, but you obviously haven't reached the requirements to become an outer disciple. It is a pity to waste a spot. Let's wait for the next time. Feng Qingwei saw that Feng Qingxue had spoken to this point, so she also tried to persuade her brother. After a moment of silence, just when everyone thought that Feng Qingshan had given up, Feng Qingshan suddenly opened his mouth. How long will Big Sis be staying at home? 3 months. Although Feng Qingxue was surprised by Feng Qingshan's question, she still answered. All right. Feng Qingshan nodded, then bowed to everyone and said, I'm a little tired. I'll go rest first. After saying that, he turned around and left. Everyone thought that he was unhappy because he wanted to become an outer disciple, but they didn't care. Only Feng Qingxue looked at Feng Qingshan's back as he left. A strange look flashed in her eyes. Who? Returning to the Rain Admiration Pavilion, Feng Qingshan waved his hand to dismiss Feng Ling and Feng Qingshan. Lying on the bed, Feng Qingshan let out a long breath. Looks like time is not on my side. It's time for me to take a look at that world. Just now in the hall, the reason why Feng Qingshan did not continue to insist was because empty words were naturally not enough to win the trust of others. So, why waste his breath? Since they said that they wanted a spot, they needed to at least have a certain level of aura. Once he broke through, the spot would naturally be easily obtained. There was only one way to break through the 3 realms of hardness and softness, divine power, and aura in a short span of 3 months, and that was to continue traveling to new worlds. With a thought, Feng Qingshan felt dizzy. Then his consciousness entered the Naiwan Palace in his mind. In an instant, his vision blurred, and then Feng Qingshan appeared on a chessboard. It was the luck treasure, the all-heaven chessboard. There were 3,000 chess pieces scattered on the chessboard. However, at this moment, except for 2 chess pieces, the other chess pieces were dead silent, like the rising sun and the bright moon, emitting eternal light and illuminating the world. It was naturally the chess piece representing the immortal world. The newly lit chess piece, however, was at the edge of the chessboard. Compared with the immortal world, it was undoubtedly the difference between a firefly and the moon. However, in this regard, Feng Qingshan was not worried but happy. The reason for this was because if this world was also like immortal world, there would indeed be more opportunities, but it would also be more dangerous. For Feng Qingshan, the most important thing right now was not to look for fortuitous encounters. Of course, it was fine if fortuitous encounters were easily obtainable. What he needed was time. As long as he grew stronger, would there be a lack of fortuitous encounters? If the new world was like immortal world, even if he crossed over, he was afraid that he would only have 3 months at most, which was not enough. Therefore, when he saw the position and the light that the world was radiating, Feng Qingshan revealed a smile that was very much to his liking. Coming to the chess piece, Feng Qingshan touched his hand on it. It was as warm jade, and at the same time, the name of the world also appeared in his mind. Heavenly Dragon. It's not too late. Let's go tonight. Thinking of this, Feng Qingshan turned over and got up, and the brush and ink were served. After a while, he wrote, I have something to go out. Don't worry, I will return within 3 months. Then with a move of his heart, a ray of light shot out from the chessboard, enveloped Feng Qingshan, and then retracted. The next moment, the house was empty. In the hall, Feng Qingxue, who was discussing things with Feng Zitao and Feng Zeshan, suddenly raised her eyebrows and shook her shoulders. The 3 of them only felt a blur in front of them. When they looked again, Feng Qingxue had disappeared. For a while, they couldn't help but look at each other, not knowing what happened. But now, Feng Qingxue had already arrived in Feng Qingshan's room. Her eyes were like torches, looking around for a while, but she couldn't find anything. She couldn't help but frown, came to the table, and reached out to pick up the letter that Feng Qingshan had written, thinking for a while. She had broken through to the mystery realm, and her spiritual sense was very sharp. The whole Feng clan was covered by her, and nothing could hide from her. Just now, she felt a sudden fluctuation in the space where Fang Qingshan was. Although it was small, it alerted her, so she came to take a look, but she didn't expect to find nothing. It seems that third brother's secret is not small. Fang Qingxue couldn't help but curl up the corner of her mouth, showing a trace of interest. However, she was not surprised, and she didn't want to get to the bottom of it, or plot to get to the bottom of Fang Qingshan's fated chance. After all, who didn't have some fated chance? She was confident that she would not be weaker than anyone in her life. Moreover, Fang Qingshan and she were family, so it was good to keep the goodies in the family. Thinking of this, Fang Qingshue's body swayed, and she reappeared in the hall. Qingxue, what happened? Fang Zitao asked worriedly. Seeing Fang Qingxue in such a hurry, he thought that something bad had happened. Nothing? Fang Qingxue waved the letter in her hand and said indifferently, "It's just that third brother left." What? Fang Zitao took a look and couldn't help but not know what to say. That unfilial son. Fang Zeshan was angry and asked Fang Qingxue, "That unfilial son left in that direction. See if I don't catch him back and break his dog legs?" "I don't know." Fang Qingxue shook her head, knowing that no one believed her, and explained indifferently, "I just felt a spatial fluctuation in the mansion and thought that an expert came to visit, so I went to check, but I didn't know it was third brother's room." "Then he won't be in any danger, right?" Fang Zeshan was worried at this time. "No." Fang Qingxue shook her head. "The news of third brother's recovery has not spread yet, so even our enemies won't come to catch him." Chapter 11. As Fang Qingshan's figure retracted along with the light, he turned into a stream of light and entered the chess piece representing the celestial dragon world. Almost instantly, Fang Qingshan felt a tightness in his chest, and his vision went black. What replaced it was endless pressure. He felt as if he had been locked in a small black room for a long time. He was in a daze. He did not know how much time had passed. It seemed like 1,000 years, but it also seemed like a moment. Fang Qingshan seemed to hear a loud shattering sound. His body relaxed, and his feet landed on solid ground. He only felt a blazing white in front of him. After a while, he opened his eyes. The world had changed. "I wonder where I am now. What year is it?" After recovering from his transmigration, he moved his limbs and found that there was nothing wrong with him. He looked around. It was either a mountain or a forest. There were no houses. It was obvious that he was in the suburbs. Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head and mumble to himself. However, he was not in a hurry. From the celestial dragon chess piece, Fang Qingshan could sense that he could stay in the celestial dragon world for 3 years. With so much time, even if he did not look for opportunities, he could find a place to stay and train slowly. In 3 years, he would be able to train to the Aura realm. However, this was obviously a waste. It would be stupid not to use resources. Therefore, what Fang Qingshan needed to do next was to think about how he could get the most benefits and increase his cultivation as much as possible. After all, the Aura realm was the minimum requirement to become an outer sect disciple. The 10 stages of the Eternal Body realm were similar to those in the Wuxiao world who specialized in external martial arts. There was no need to talk about health. Training strength was actually equivalent to a Shaolin disciple who had just entered the sect carrying water in the mountains every day. The moves were equivalent to practicing the Arhot fist. When one reached the hardness and softness realm, he could go to the Dharma Hall or the Prajna Hall to further practice martial arts. When one reached the divine power realm, he would be considered a third-rate expert in the pugilistic world. The 4 ghosts of the Yellow River and the 5 clowns of the Tibetan border were probably at this level. As for the chi that had advanced a step further, it was from the outside to the inside. His external martial arts had already reached a very high level of attainment, and he was already a second-rate master in Jianghu. The 7th level, inner strength, also involved the strengthening of the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. At this time, experts like Qiu Qianren and Hong Qigong, who had reached the peak of external strength cultivation, were already famous in Jianghu. As for the 8th level, divine courage, the word courage explained everything. In the battlefield, one would be able to fight against 1,000 people. In the Jianghu, One would be like Qiao Feng, who could fight against many alone. As for the ninth level, Psychic Connection, this realm was already somewhat different from ordinary cultivation. It had already involved the soul and spiritual sense. The cicada can sense the autumn wind before it moves. The cicada can sense it before it moves, and the impermanence of death is unknown. It was probably at this level. As for the last level, Divine Change, in Jianghu, one would already be considered an earth immortal. They were not ordinary people, just like the sweeping monks in the Shaolin Sutra Depository. Fang Qingshan was now in the realm of hardness and softness, and the next step was divine power. In the celestial dragon world, the top strength training method would probably be the Tantric Sex Dragon Elephant Prajna technique. It was just that this technique was not easy to cultivate at all. Since the creation of this technique, there were basically 5 people who had mastered it. However, it did not mean that there were no shortcuts. Just like the Ming cult's Heaven and Earth Great Shift and the Duan family's 6-pulse Godly Sword, they were both famous for being difficult to cultivate. However, as long as one's inner strength was abundant, it was a completely different matter when it came to cultivation. Zhang Wuji had mastered the 9-Yang Divine technique and cultivated the Heaven and Earth Great Shift. That fellow was like sitting on a rocket, rising rapidly. As for Duan Yu, when he completely controlled the inner strength in his body, he also mastered the 6-pulse Godly Sword. In the world of wuxia, although there were internal and external techniques, they all adhered to the concept of internal strength as the foundation and external use. As long as one's inner strength was mastered, any move could be easily used with unparalleled power. If Fang Qingshan wanted to cultivate the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique, he could take a shortcut, which was to use his profound inner strength to promote the progress of his external techniques. There were 2 ways to have a profound inner strength. One was to be like Duan Yu and cultivate the Dark North Divine technique, absorbing the inner strength of the world's warriors and turning it into his own. This method was very simple and easy to achieve. If the big picture had not started, the Dark North Divine technique would still be hidden in the valley near the Infinite Sect in the Infinite Mountain. The second method was simpler than the first, and it was not as evil. If he was not careful, he would be regarded as a demon and a rat on the street. That was to go to the deaf-mute old man's place and break Wu Yizi's exquisite chess game. This way, with Fang Qingshan's elegant demeanor, he would definitely be accepted into the sect and pass on his 70 years' worth of skills. If he used the second method, there was another benefit, and that was luck. The Carefree sect might not be famous, but it had a lot of power. The eldest, Wu Xingyun, controlled 36 caves and 72 islands. The third, Li Qiushui, was the Empress Dowager of a country. Even Wu Yizi himself had a grand disciple named Miracle Dr. Shui, who was revered by the people of the martial world. As long as Fang Qingshan became the sect master of the Carefree sect, he would be able to gather the other 3 sects and obtain a considerable amount of luck. Luck! To Fang Qingshan, luck was more important than anything else. With luck, he could turn adversity into prosperity and misfortunes into blessings. With luck, he could open up more worlds and treat them as his back garden. When that time came, treasures, divine abilities, and secret techniques would come rolling in. With luck, he would have everything. With that thought, Fang Qingshan decided to first ask for the time and place. Then he would rush to Beating Drum Mountain. As for the Dragon Elephant Prajna art, he wasn't in a hurry. Although it was a protective technique of the Tantric sect, it was so difficult to cultivate that it was almost like cabbages. Even though only the first few layers had been circulated, Fang Qingshan's current state of toughness and gentleness meant that he was just a nobody in the martial world. He could find the Dragon Elephant Prajna art in the western region, but it would definitely be incomplete. The complete one was obviously still hidden in his boudoir. Therefore, he needed to go to Beating Drum Mountain first and improve his cultivation. When that time came, he would have the confidence to steal, rob, or trade. In fact, he already had a target, the famous Tubo State Preceptor, Jiumaji. Jiumaji, Murongbo, Xiaofeng, and Xiao Yuanshan were known as the 4 absolutes of the Sky Dragon. They came from the Nyingma sect, one of the 4 great lineages of the Tibetan Buddhism. It was much easier to find him than Fang Qingshan running around like a headless fly. Although Jiumaji was famous for his flame blade and Shaolin 72 ultimate techniques, as one of the few great powers of the Tantric sect, even if he didn't know the Dragon Elephant Prajna art, he would have definitely seen it. After all, apart from being the Tubo State Preceptor and an elder of the Tantric sect, Jiumaji was also a martial arts fanatic. At that time, as long as Fang Qingshan casually took out one of the top techniques of the Carefree sect to trade with him, he wouldn't have to worry about him not giving in. Chapter 12. After the fresh rain on the empty mountain, the weather turned to autumn. After the autumn rain, the dust was washed away, and the whole Beating Drum Mountain was shrouded in a thin layer of mist, looking more and more peaceful. At this time, a young man was strolling on the mountain path. It was Fang Qingshan. After coming out of the teleportation site, Fang Qingshan asked around and found that the big picture had begun. Although the names of Murong of the south and Xiaofeng of the north still circulated in the world of martial arts, this time the most famous event was not because of these two outstanding heroes. Instead, it was because many famous elites had died under the hands of their own ultimate skills. The spearhead was pointed at the Murong clan's shifting stars, and it was paying them back in their own coin. After receiving this news, Fang Qingshan was a little relieved and hurried to Beating Drum Mountain. Since the incident at Xinglinzi was about to happen, the script of Beating Drum Mountain was not far away. So he had to act quickly, lest that silly boy Shuju took advantage of it. In Sky Dragon, there were three main characters. Apart from Xiaofeng, the other two, Duan Yu and Shuju, were completely in cheat mode. One fell off a cliff, but not only did he not die, but he also obtained a secret skill. After coming out, a highly poisonous object entered his body, but he was not only unharmed, but also immune to all poisons. He did not want to practice martial arts, but his cultivation was close to that of the top masters in Jianghu. The other was a greenhorn who followed a group of Jianghu heroes, but in the end, he casually played a chess piece and solved the exquisite chess game that no one in Jianghu had been able to solve for decades. He gained 70 years of cultivation and instantly became one of the top masters in Jianghu. Then, he took charge of Misty Peak and married the princess of Xixia. He was the biggest winner in life. One was an idiot and the other was a fool, but their luck was so good that they turned misfortunes into blessings. In sharp contrast, the eldest brother, Xiaofeng, worked hard to practice martial arts, but was caught up in a short time. He diligently took charge of the gang, but in a short time, he was driven out of power. His adoptive parents and master were killed. It turned out that the killer turned out to be his biological father. In order to get revenge, he killed the only woman he liked. Finally, it seemed that the bitterness was over, and he became the king of the Liao Kingdom's south courtyard, followed by Z. Unfortunately, fate played tricks on everyone again, and he could only die in Yanmen Pass. Although the protagonists here were not as good as the protagonists in Immortal World, after all, he was an outsider. In order to be safe, Fang Qingshan inquired about the specific location of Beating Drum Mountain and hurried there. Fortunately, although this mountain was not comparable to famous mountains and rivers such as Shaolin and Amei, it was not unknown in this world. After all, Mr. Tsongwan had set up the exquisite chess game for decades. Every once in a while, he would invite the young heroes of Jianghu to try it. So Fang Qingshan easily arrived at his destination. Although Fang Qingshan's cultivation was not high at the moment, after walking for more than half an hour, he came to a pavilion built with giant bamboo. The bamboo was dense, the scenery was quiet, the mountain stream was flowing, the construction was elegant, extremely ingenious. The bamboo was the pavilion was the bamboo. It was really unique. Although the scenery was beautiful, Fang Qingshan only looked at it a little bit. He did not forget his purpose of coming here. Continuing to move forward, and not long after, he came to a valley. The sea of bamboos and pines made people forget to return to the valley. After walking for a while more, he saw a wooden house in the distance. Under a pine tree, there were 3 big stones, 1 big and 2 small. They were used as tables and stools. The big one was used as a table. The top of the table was crisscrossed with black and white pieces that were sparkling and translucent. Obviously, this was where the exquisite chess game was located. At this moment, an old man was sitting on the stone bench. He was short, thin, and shriveled. It was no accident that he was Wu Yazi's second disciple, Mr. Tsongwan. But looking at his appearance alone, he did not meet the standards of the Carefree School for choosing disciples. The Carefree School accepted disciples not only to be talented and intelligent, but also to be handsome and beautiful. Although Mr. Tsongwan was old, he should at least have a little sage-like spirit. Now that he looked like this, it seemed that he had endured humiliation for the sake of his master over the years. Walking into the chessboard, Fang Qingshan saw that Su Xinghe did not pay attention to him and was playing by himself. Fang Qingshan did not care. He stood quietly at the side and watched Su Xinghe play by himself. As for Go, Fang Qingshan actually knew how to play. Although he did not dare to say that he was a national player, he was not a rookie either. Seeing Su Xinghe holding a white piece in one hand and a black piece in the other, playing back and forth as if two countries were at war, marching armies, and hiding murderous intentions, Fang Qingshan nodded to himself. No wonder he was a disciple of the Carefree School. Not only was he good at martial arts, but he was also good at zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, divination, qimendunjia, and so on. Actually, it was not just Fang Qingshan who was watching Su Xinghe. From the moment Fang Qingshan stepped into the valley, Su Xinghe noticed him. However, Su Xinghe did not say anything because he did not know Fang Qingshan's purpose, and he was also secretly watching Fang Qingshan. Seeing that Su Xinghe was watching silently, it was clear that Su Xinghe's character was not low. Being engrossed in the game meant that he was good at it. Waiting quietly meant that his patience was commendable. Although he was young, he already had a distinguished temperament. Su Xinghe could not help but nod to himself. He thought to himself that if Fang Qingshan could break Master's exquisite Go game, the Carefree School would have a successor. However, he did not have too much hope. Indeed, after so many years, he had seen many talented youths. However, there was no one who could break Master's exquisite Go game. There were not many who could even last for a while. Pa! As the last piece fell, a dragon was slaughtered. Su Xinghe finally raised his head and looked at Fang Qingshan. This junior greets Mr. Congist. Fang Qingshan bowed. Fang Qingshan knew that if he wanted to obtain Wu Yazi's power, Su Xinghe would be a hurdle. If he could not break Master's exquisite Go game, then it would be useless to say anything else. Therefore, he did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. I heard that the drum-beating mountain's exquisite Go game is unparalleled in this world. I have come to pay my respects and hope that Mr. Congist will not be stingy with your advice. Su Xinghe did not show any expression and did not speak. After all, he had been pretending to be deaf and mute all these years in order to guard against his senior brother, the Constellation Old Monster. He would not expose himself before he was sure that Fang Qingshan could break Master's exquisite Go game. After all, this was not only a matter of life and death, but also the life and death of his master and the school. He looked at Fang Qingshan with his eyes that were as deep as the abyss. He raised his arm and gestured for Fang Qingshan to sit on another stool. Then he waved his sleeves, and a series of pitter-patter sounds could be heard. The black and white chess pieces were scattered all over the place, and a new game was formed in an instant. It was obvious that after so many years, the exquisite Go game had been completely engraved in his mind. Although Fang Qingshan's chess skills were not superb, he was, after all, from the age of information explosion in the future. His eyes were first-rate. At a glance, he could see that every step of the game was filled with killing intent. It was indeed the game that Wu Yazi was most proud of in his life. Chapter 13. Whether it was real gold or brass, one would be able to tell the real from the fake. After Su Xing, he laid out the exquisite chess set. He didn't care what Fang Qingshan was thinking. He picked up the black piece, and without the slightest bit of hesitation, he placed it down with no regrets. Although his master's cultivation was high, he was still heavily injured. The only reason he was able to survive all these years was because of his pure chi and stubbornness. However, there was a limit to one's strength. Even after persisting for 30 years, it was still not enough. Because of this, Su Xing, he was prepared to send out invitations to all the geniuses in the world to come to the Beating Drum Mountain and see if there was anyone who could break this exquisite chess set. If there was, then it would be a happy ending. If not, then he would have to think of another way. After all, his master seemed to be at his limit. However, at this time, Fang Qingshan had appeared. Inexplicably, Su Xing, he felt a burst of joy. It was as if he had a feeling that his mission was about to be completed. Therefore, although Su Xing, he didn't say anything or express anything, he had a certain amount of expectation for Fang Qingshan. All of these were Su Xing, his thoughts. Fang Qingshan didn't have the mind-reading technique, so he naturally didn't know. Seeing Su Xing, he moved the black piece first. He didn't mind it at all. He picked up the white piece and was about to place it down when his expression suddenly changed and his hand involuntarily stopped in midair. Seeing this scene, Su Xing, he was greatly disappointed and sighed inwardly. He had thought that Fang Qingshan's chess skills were extraordinary, but now, before he even made his first move, Su Xing, he was already possessed. He couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at his previous thoughts. Ever since he set up his master's exquisite chess set, it had been 30 years since he set it up. It was unknown how many young talents and famous people had tried to solve it, but none of them had been able to solve it. Today, he saw a young man whom he had never met before, but he was filled with confidence for no reason. Su Xing, he was very familiar with Fang Qingshan's bewitched look. Although this exquisite chess set was called a chess set, it was hailed by an expert like Wu Yizi as his proudest work. How could it be simple? Over the years, there had been countless people who had been bewitched by the exquisite Go game and drawn into it. Fang Qingshan was not one of them. At this moment, Su Xing, he couldn't help but lose interest. He thought about whether or not he should send out the hero invitations and gather the young elites once again. Casting a wide net was better than being as immovable as a mountain. While Su Xinghe was thinking about other things, Fang Qingshan's consciousness also entered his Niwen palace. The reason why he was stunned just now was not because he was lost in the chess game, but because the all-heaven chessboard in his mud pill palace had suddenly moved by itself. Originally, he was going to use Shuju's original method to break the board. However, he didn't expect that the all-heaven chessboard, which only moved when there was luck, would move on its own at this moment. The all-heavens chessboard flashed with light, and it actually copied the exquisite Go puzzle outside without missing a single detail. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but frown. Could it be because this supreme treasure is a chessboard, so it can play chess on its own? Just as Fang Qingshan was feeling puzzled, a black piece fell from the sky, landing with a thud. From the looks of it, it was Su Xinghe who had placed it. Then another white piece fell. It was obviously deducing the chess path for Fang Qingshan. In fact, Fang Qingshan's guess was right. The all-heaven chessboard wasn't just a passage that helped him travel between the heavens. It was also a supreme treasure for offense and defense. Playing chess could even be used as a battle between two armies. The all-heaven chessboard could also be used to set up formations. The chessboard could be used as a formation, and the chess pieces could be used as formation flags. However, it was still far from enough to achieve this. After all, there was a chessboard, but there were only two chess pieces. Of course, all of this was beyond Fang Qingshan's imagination. However, he was still overjoyed. After all, Su Xinghe had been immersed in the exquisite Go game for 30 years, and Fang Qingshan wasn't confident that he could beat him. Although he could learn from Su Zhu, it was still a bit unconventional. However, at this moment, everything was different. With the all-heaven chessboard to deduce for him, Fang Qingshan could simply sit back and relax. Although Wu Yazi was powerful and the exquisite Go game was extraordinary, the stage determined one's vision. After all, there was a limit to how powerful one was. The all-heaven chessboard was the condensation of an era's fate. Such a treasure was something that even immortals and Buddhas would covet. Thinking of this, Fang Qingshan became even calmer. The sound of the chessboard was neither fast nor slow, and it woke Su Xinghe up from his daze. Su Xinghe didn't care about this. He glanced at the chessboard indifferently and casually placed another chess piece. He had lost interest in Fang Qingshan. He had thought about the first move for so long, and he really couldn't see any hope of winning. However, this time, Su Xinghe was disappointed. As soon as he placed his black chess piece, Fang Qingshan placed his white chess piece as well. Su Xinghe frowned at first. He thought that Fang Qingshan was just giving up, and he was very displeased. If he couldn't win the game, he could just admit defeat. Moreover, he would be able to look at himself in a carefree manner. However, this last-ditch struggle was very disappointing and made people look down on him. However, the next moment, when his eyes fell on the chessboard, his entire body trembled. He originally thought that Fang Qingshan was playing randomly, but after taking a closer look, he felt that it was like an antelope hanging its horns. It was too wonderful for words. Good! He couldn't help but praise. Su Xinghe looked deeply at Fang Qingshan and didn't say anything else. He pulled himself together and began to play seriously. Clap, clap, clap. Su Xinghe already knew every move of this chess game like the back of his hand. Even if he closed his eyes, he would still be able to make the slightest mistake. Therefore, he didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation. As for comprehending the Tao, with the all-heavens chessboard to deduce for him, it was even easier. He did not need to use his brain at all. Every time Su Xinghe placed a piece, the all-heavens chessboard would deduce the next move. He only needed to pick up the piece and follow it closely. For a moment, the two of them were truly evenly matched. 1,000 cups of wine was too little, but a single word was too much. It had been many years since Su Xinghe had felt so carefree. At this moment, he had already forgotten about the exquisite chessboard and focused on deducing the changes in the game of chess. The more he played, the more excited he became. In the end, there was a limit to one's strength. The more he played, the slower Su Xinghe placed his chess piece. The more he played, the deeper his frown became. As Fang Qingshan casually placed another chess piece, Su Xinghe's face suddenly became conflicted. In one moment, he was ecstatic, in the next he was ferocious, and in the next he turned green and purple. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell backward involuntarily. Mr. Smart, seeing this, Fang Qingshan was shocked. He quickly moved to support Su Xinghe and asked worriedly, "Are you all right?" "Don't worry, I'm fine." Su Xinghe waved his hand. Chapter 14. He had been hunting wild geese for a long time, but today he was pecked in the eye by a wild goose. In the past, he had watched others fall into a trance, sometimes crazy, sometimes stupid. Today, he finally had a taste of what it felt like. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Su Xinghe was no longer in any danger. Looking at the exquisite chess game on the board, he let out a long sigh. For so many years, in order to find an excellent disciple for his master, he had painstakingly studied. Outwardly, he pretended to be deaf and mute to deceive Ding Chunxiu. Internally, he had devoted himself to the exquisite chess game. But today, the chess game had been broken in one night. Decades of hard work had gone to waste. Su Xinghe couldn't help but feel empty inside. But then his entire body relaxed. In the end, the heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. He had finally found a talent for his master. Fang Qingshan had broken the exquisite chess game and was even more elegant. He was truly the best candidate to be the successor of the Carefree School. With him around, she could finally be free, and the day she could avenge her benefactor's death was not far away. Ha! Ha 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 ha! A hearty laughter came from Su Xinghe's mouth, echoing throughout the valley. For a moment, tears flowed down his face. Whether he was happy or sad, only he knew what he was feeling. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan did not disturb him. Instead, he stood quietly to the side, waiting. After a long while, Su Xinghe finally calmed down. Wiping away his tears, he smiled at Fang Qingshan. For a moment, I couldn't control myself. If I was rude, please forgive me. May I know your name? That's right. Senior is bold and unrestrained. You are the model for my generation. Fang Qingshan smiled, and complimented. Then he bowed again. I am Fong Qingshan. Greetings, Mr. Tsongbian. If that's the case, then this old man will call you Qingshan. Su Xing, he nodded. My master set up this exquisite chess game. For decades, no one has been able to solve it. Today, with Qingshan's help, I will be able to solve it. That's right, that's right. Qingshan was merely lucky. Fong Qingshan said modestly. Hey, Qingshan, you're being too modest. Su Xinghe waved his hand. If it could be solved by luck, then why has no one been able to solve it for so many years? Fong Qingshan thought to himself. It's not that no one has relied on luck to solve the problem. It's just that it's not the right time yet. If I hadn't interfered, when Shizhu comes, you will know that luck can also solve the problem. Of course, Fong Qingshan didn't say this out loud. Hearing Su Xinghe's words, he didn't continue to be modest and only had a faint smile on his face. He wasn't happy about victory, nor was he sad about defeat. It was as if the clouds were floating in the wind. Su Xinghe could not help but secretly nod his head. It was like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. Right, if I may be so bold as to ask, what is Qingshan's identity? How come this old man has never heard of such a young talent? Su Xinghe asked in a casual manner. He's here. Fong Qingshan thought to himself, but on the surface, he didn't show it. He said, Qingshan is an orphan. He was adopted by a hermit in the mountains and taught both literature and martial arts. Unfortunately, his literature couldn't make him famous, and his martial arts couldn't shake the world. After his teacher passed away, he became even more undisciplined and focused on traveling the world. Not long ago, he heard about Mr. Conniving and the Xinlong Go game. So he came. Oh, so that's how it is? Good, very good, ha ha ha. His family was clean, and his character was in line with the true meaning of the Carefree sect. He was simply a natural carefree disciple. So how could Su Xinghe not be happy? As for the fact that his literature couldn't make him famous and his martial arts couldn't shake the world, Su Xinghe only thought that he was being modest. He couldn't see any clues in terms of literature, but just from the way he was able to solve the Xinlong Go game, it could be seen that he was a smart person with first-rate comprehension. As for his martial arts, Su Xinghe had observed him and knew that Fong Qingshan was only a third-rate martial artist. But so what? As long as he entered the Carefree sect and obtained his teacher's 70 years of cultivation, he would instantly rise to the top of the world. Whether it was Murong of the south or Qiao of the north, his junior brother would definitely surpass them. Su Xinghe was very confident about this. Seeing that Fong Qingshan was looking at him with a confused expression, Su Xinghe's expression changed, and he said, Qingshan, do you know why I'm called Mr. Deaf-Mute? Because I'm neither deaf nor mute? This? A hint of hesitation flashed across Fong Qingshan's face as he asked a question he already knew the answer to. I'd like to hear the details. After a moment of silence, Su Xinghe slowly opened his mouth and said, This matter started 30 years ago. Perhaps it was because he hadn't spoken for many years that he couldn't stop talking, or perhaps it was because Su Xinghe had already treated Fong Qingshan as his junior brother and wanted him to understand the whole story, or perhaps there were other reasons. In any case, Su Xinghe told Fong Qingshan about the past of the Carefree sect in full detail. Shameless, you deserve to die. Bang! Fong Qingshan slammed the table and stood up, filled with righteous indignation. His sympathetic expression made Su Xinghe feel very comforted. Don't worry, mister. If there's a chance, Qingshan will definitely help you kill the evildoer. Oh? Qingshan is willing to help me clean up the sect and take revenge. Su Xinghe's eyes lit up and he asked urgently, This? Fong Qingshan's face blushed and he said with some embarrassment, I would like to help, mister, but my martial arts are weak. Before Fong Qingshan could finish, he was interrupted by Su Xinghe. Qingshan, there's no need to say anything else. You just need to answer if this old man is willing or not. I'm willing. Looking at Su Xinghe, who was looking at him with a face full of hope, Fong Qingshan could not help but feel a little sorry for Su Xinghe. He subconsciously nodded. Good. Su Xinghe was overjoyed. Come, Qingshan, follow me. Su Xinghe stood up, walked to the door of the 3 wooden houses, and waved at Fong Qingshan. Whoosh! Finally, at this step, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but breathe heavily. He took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and walked to the door of the wooden house. He pretended to be confused and asked, "Mister, what is the meaning of this?" "Qingshan, just go in and you'll know." Su Xinghe shook his head mysteriously, but didn't explain. Hearing this, Fang Qingshan blinked, but didn't say anything. He pushed the door open and slowly walked in. Even though he had taken a few deep breaths before, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but tremble with excitement in the face of the great opportunity that was about to come. With Wu Yazi's 70 years of cultivation, Fang Qingshan's cultivation would surely soar. Even if it wasn't psychic, it would at least be divine. If he used his body's skill to promote the cultivation of dragon elephant prajna art, he would definitely be able to lay a solid foundation for himself. As for the exclusivity of the Northern Underworld divine art, there was no need to worry about this at all. The dragon elephant prajna art cultivated the body, which was in parallel with him. As for whether there would be any hindrances in the future when he broke through the divine secret realm, it was just a groundless worry. No matter how powerful the Northern Underworld divine art was, it was only a cultivation method of the body realm, and it was a cultivation method of the martial arts world. How could it compare to the immortal world? Chapter 15. There was a fish in the Northern Underworld named Kuan. The Northern Underworld divine skill was just a divine skill derived from the name of Kuan Peng. How could it be compared to the great devouring technique of a mortal world? Fang Han directly used a Kuan Peng egg to practice this method, swallowing the heavens and the earth. It was simply incomparable. He practiced this skill as a preparation for the future practice of the great devouring technique. "Since you have come in, why are you lingering at the door? Why don't you come up and talk?" Just as Fang Qingshan's heart was surging with excitement, a slightly hoarse voice rang in his ear. Wu Yazi. Almost instantly, a name appeared in his mind. Taking a deep breath and calming himself, Fang Qingshan followed the voice and came to the place where Wu Yazi was. He saw a man sitting high up in the air. His beard was 3 feet long, without a single strand of white hair. His face was like jade, without a single wrinkle. Although he was not young, he was still in high spirits. His demeanor was elegant. He was not a mortal. He was like a deity. Unfortunately, after a closer look, he sighed in his heart. It turned out that he was sitting alone in the air, but in fact, it was just a few chains binding him and hanging him in the air through the beam. Those who did not know would think that he was a demon or a ghost being suppressed here. To be able to enter this house, it is obvious that he has broken my exquisite chess game. His comprehension and determination are first class. His eyebrows are like distant mountains, his eyes are like bright stars, and although his figure is a little thin, he is even more handsome. He is the best candidate for my carefree sect disciple. Xinghe disciple has wasted decades, and finally found such a good jade before my death. The heavens have not let me down. Just as Fang Qingshan was looking at Wu Yazi was also looking at Fang Qingshan. Like Su Xinghe, the more he looked, the more satisfied he was. The carefree sect's disciples pay attention to quality, not quantity. Aptitude, comprehension, appearance, and so on must be first class. Look at the 3 carefree elders. Which one of them is not an immortal? Any one of them can suppress the world. Your exquisite chess game? Xinghe disciple? Fang Qingshan seemed to be hit hard and staggered back a few steps, looking at Wu Yazi in horror, as if he had seen a ghost. What? Are you surprised? Wu Yazi laughed as he looked at Fang Qingshan's expression. To think that senior is actually still alive. What a surprise. Fang Qingshan already knew that Wu Yazi was not dead and that he had come for him. His fear was just an act. He took a deep breath and shook his head with a bitter smile. Mr. Condescension, you are too old. Not bad. Seeing that Fang Qingshan had recovered so quickly, Wu Yazi was even more satisfied. It seems that you know me. Xinghe must have told you. Little boy, what's your name? That's right. Fang Qingshan nodded and bowed. Junior Fang Qingshan greets Senior Wu Yazi. And, since Xinghe has already told you, are you willing to take me as your master and help me clean up the sect? Wu Yazi's time was almost up. The people of the carefree sect did not beat around the bush and ask directly. Ah, take me as your master? Fong Qingshan was stunned. I only said that I'm willing to help Mr. Condescension clean up the sect. Then do you have a sex inheritance? Wu Yizi raised his white eyebrows. Yes. Fong Qingshan nodded his head and told him the story he had fabricated. That's nonsense. Wu Yizi shook his head after listening to him. How can that be considered as your sex inheritance? He adopted you and treated you as his own. You're just taking over his father's business. With your martial arts skills, can you defeat that evil Ding Chuanxiu? Wu Yizi continued to ask. Although I'm not from the Jianghu, I've heard of the Constellation Immortal's reputation. Compared to him, my martial arts skills are like the difference between a firefly and the moon. Fong Qingshan shook his head. If that's the case, when you say that you're willing to help me clean up the sect, you're not walking into a trap and seeking your own death, are you? Or are you relying on your age to outlive Ding Chuanxiu? Wu Yizi laughed coldly. This... Fong Qingshan stuttered, unable to say a word. You don't have a sect, so it's not a betrayal. If you want revenge, you must learn profound martial arts. If you don't become my disciple, when are you going to do it? Wu Yizi smiled satisfactorily when he saw that Fong Qingshan was speechless. Then he changed the topic and guided him patiently. Fong Qingshan hesitated for a moment. Then he knelt on the ground and kowtowed 9 times. Disciple Fong Qingshan greets master. Good. I've waited for 30 years. Finally, the clouds have parted and I can see the moon. Just as I'm about to die, you've sent me such a good disciple. Ha. Good, very good. Seeing that Fong Qingshan had finally become his disciple, Wu Yizi was so excited that he looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. For a moment, the entire valley was filled with the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. After so many years of hard work, he finally had the chance to inherit the sect and take revenge. Even with Wu Yizi's mentality, he could not suppress his excitement at this moment. It was obvious how excited he was. Outside the wooden house, when Su Xinghe heard Wu Yizi's hearty laughter, tears streamed down his face. He thought about what kind of person his master was in the past. Not only was he skilled in martial arts, but he was also skilled in the art of music, chess, calligraphy, painting, divination, the art of war, and so on. However, because he did not know his master well, he was taken advantage of and harmed by Ding Chuanxiu. As a result, he struggled at death's door for nearly 30 years. This was a huge blow to a person who was as arrogant as a Buddha. If it was not for his obsession to clean up the sect and inherit the sect, he would not have been able to hold on even if he had half a century's worth of martial arts. Ding Chuanxiu, just you wait. Your end is coming. Su Xinghe revealed a sinister smile as he looked out of the valley. Inside the wooden house, although the unfettered one was laughing wildly, he did not forget that there was still a mediocre Fong Qingshan. He used his inner force to isolate Fong Qingshan. Otherwise, he would have experienced extreme joy turning to sorrow. He had finally found an excellent disciple, but in the end, he was shocked to death by his own laughter. After venting his 30 years of depression, Wu Yizi's face became even more radiant. It was as if he had experienced a second spring. However, Fong Qingshan knew that this was only the surface. Once his obsession was gone, he would have a final radiance before death. Although he had just become Wu Yizi's disciple and his motive was not pure, Fong Qingshan could not help but feel sad when he saw this scene. All right, Qingshan, there is no need to be sad. It is human nature to grow old and die. Looking at Fong Qingshan's expression, Wu Yizi could not be more satisfied. Moreover, if it was not for the fact that I wanted to clean up the sect and inherit the sect, I would have died 30 years ago. It is enough that I have lived for so long. Don't be like a little girl. After experiencing Ding Chuanxiu's story, although Wu Yizi still valued talent, appearance, and so on, he also valued character. Otherwise, if he nurtured another ungrateful person, wouldn't he not be able to rest easy on the road to the Yellow Springs? Chapter 16. Okay, Qingshan, you come forward. Fong Qingshan was silent for a while before he walked over. Sit cross-legged, 5 hearts facing the sky, and don't think about anything else. Fang Qingshan did as he was told. After a moment, Wu Yizi's body turned over. The top of his head was pressed against Fang Qingshan's head, and his palms were joined together with Fang Qingshan's palms. In an instant, a stream of inner energy that was as pure as mercury and surged like a mountain torrent slowly poured out of Wu Yizi's body and entered Fang Qingshan's body. As one of the most advanced internal force in the Heavenly Dragon realm, the Dark North Divine Art was definitely not worse than the Nine Yin and Nine Yang Divine Arts. However, there was one thing that was incompatible and convertible. If one wanted to practice the Dark North Divine Art, they had to start from the very beginning. Otherwise, they would have to abolish all their internal force and start from scratch. However, this was not a problem for Fang Qingshan. First of all, his current cultivation level was low, and he was probably not much better than Shuju. Second, the cultivation of the physical realm in the immortal world was the path of refining the body. Even if one reached the aura realm, it was still refining the essence into qi, not internal force. Therefore, Fang Qingshan did not cultivate internal force at all, which saved him the trouble of dissolving internal force. However, if one wears the crown, one must bear its weight. The same was true for internal force. Wu Yizi's internal force was surging and pure. If one wanted to completely accommodate it, an ordinary body would not be able to do so. Therefore, at this moment, Fang Qingshan's bitter days came. With the infusion of internal force from Wu Yizi, Fang Qingshan seemed to have been subjected to all kinds of torture. His miserable screams were no lighter than Wu Yizi's previous long roar. Su Xinghe, who was outside the wooden house, trembled in fear. Well, only by suffering can you become a person above others. Hold on. Perhaps Wu Yizi's eardrums were hurting from Fang Qingshan's screams, so he hit Fang Qingshan's mute acupoint. Instantly, the whole world went silent. However, he could not be distracted, which made the pain even more intense. For a moment, his inner force was like a knife, slicing through Fang Qingshan's body inch by inch. It was like a sharpened iron brush, brushing back and forth. There was nothing worse than being cut by 1,000 knives. At this moment, Fang Qingshan's entire body was a mess of flesh and blood, and his face was twisted and hideous. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he could not faint despite the pain. It was not that he did not want to faint, but he could not. Every time Fang Qingshan reached his limit and was about to faint, the all-heaven chessboard would shoot out a ray of light to wake him up. The cycle repeated, making Fang Qingshan want to die. He had never hated the all-heaven chessboard's ability to protect one's soul so much. Seeing Fang Qingshan screaming so hard, Wu Yizi was a little disappointed. He thought that his willpower was not strong enough. However, after seeing that Fang Qingshan had not fainted after such a long time, he could not help but feel surprised. At the same time, he felt a sense of satisfaction. When heaven is about to bestow a great responsibility on a person, it must first torment his will, tire his muscles and bones, starve his skin, empty his body, and mess up his actions. Therefore, it is necessary to be patient and do what one cannot do. For an ordinary person to learn martial arts from a master and practice martial arts, it would take them 3 to 5 years to get a basic understanding. It was just like the disciples of Shaolin Temple who carried water and practiced the Arhut fist. It would take them 8 to 10 years to make their debut. If they wanted to be famous in Jianghu, it would be rare to find one without decades of accumulation. Now, Fang Qingshan could be said to be the best in the world after he had completely digested Wu Yizi's martial arts. He could save decades of cultivation. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and there was no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. Since he had obtained such a great benefit, he naturally had to pay a corresponding price. Concentrate and calm your qi. Follow the flow of your inner force. Just when Fang Qingshan was in deep trouble, Wu Yizi's voice came into his ears. There is a fish in the northern underworld called the Kuan. The back of the Kuan is thousands of miles long. It turns into a bird called the prung. The sea can accommodate hundreds of rivers, and it is big with tolerance. The wall is 1,000 feet high, and it is strong without desire. Fang Qingshan knew that it was not the way to go. It was best to find a target and divert his attention. Wu Yizi's words were timely. Hence, he immediately felt the circulation route of his inner force while listening to the mental cultivation method of the Northern Underworld divine skill. In the beginning, it was naturally not smooth. It was intermittent, but it was fine after a long time. Therefore, after being interrupted time and time again by the pain, Fang Qingshan finally used an hour to complete a complete qi cycle. As the mental cultivation method worked, the inner force that was originally an outsider was gradually assimilated into his own. Although this was insignificant compared to Wu Yizi's 70 years of cultivation, one could not reach 1,000 miles without taking small steps. One could not form a river without accumulating small streams. As long as the process of peeling the silk from the cocoon continued, there would come a day when it would sweep the world and swallow the world. Wu Yizi could not help but nod in satisfaction when he saw that Fang Qingshan's absorption of inner force was gradually on the right track. Just as he was about to continue, he raised his eyebrows. As the Northern Underworld divine skill worked, it was not only Wu Yizi's inner force, but also Fang Qingshan's inner force. However, compared to the purity of Wu Yizi's inner force, devouring the heavens and devouring the earth, this force was undoubtedly much weaker. However, it was more effective in helping Fang Qingshan. As this force was added, it was repairing Fang Qingshan's meridians and body that had been attacked by Wu Yizi's inner force. This force was full of vitality and continuous. It was the various elixirs that Fang Qingshan had consumed for the past 10 years due to his congenital deficiency. Fang Qingshan's cultivation was not high enough. The elixirs were absorbed by him, wasted by him, and settled in his body. The Fang family had been consuming elixirs for 365 days a year. After decades of accumulation, even if it was not as powerful as Wu Yizi's, it was still quite impressive. It seems like my disciple wasn't telling the truth. Seeing this scene, Wu Yizi knew that Fang Qingshan's so-called life experience was fabricated. After all, how could that hermit have so much money to buy so many elixirs? It would be a joke if he said that he picked them himself. According to Wu Yizi's investigation, the elixir aura in Fang Qingshan's body was basically transformed from ginseng and Ganoderma that were more than 100 years old. Not to mention an ordinary hermit. Even an emperor would not be so extravagant. I wonder who this fella is? Even Wu Yizi could not help but be curious about this. However, he wasn't angry at Fang Qingshan's concealment. Firstly, he was quite satisfied with Fang Qingshan, whether it was his comprehension ability, aptitude, appearance, or willpower. Secondly, everyone had their own secrets, and he wasn't willing to get to the bottom of it. Of course, the most important thing was that the cultivation imparting had already begun, and he couldn't go back on his word. Moreover, his lifespan was coming to an end, so instead of being overly suspicious, he might as well trust Fang Qingshan completely. Chapter 17. Without destruction, there can be no construction. Destruction and construction. Originally, because Fang Qingshan's realm was not high enough, forcibly absorbing Wu Yizi's 70 years of domineering northern qi, it was a little weak. Wu Yizi had to divert his attention to turn his inner force into a barrier to protect Fang Qingshan's meridians and acupoints, so that when the opportunity turned into a disaster, his meridians would be broken. However, as the power of the elixirs that had been accumulated in Fang Qingshan's body for many years erupted, Wu Yizi was completely relieved. The northern qi had the effect of destruction, and the power of the elixirs had the effect of creation. Destruction and construction complemented each other. Not only did it temper his body, but it also allowed Fang Qingshan to control the surging power more skillfully. He was not like Duan Yu, who had the top strength in the Jianghu, but could not fully control it. As a result, he often put himself in danger. I didn't take in the wrong disciple. Seeing the changes in Fang Qingshan's body, Wu Yizi breathed a sigh of relief. He withdrew the power that protected Fang Qingshan's body and began to pour all his power into Fang Qingshan without reservation. Fang Qingshan, who had just adapted to the previous pain, suddenly opened his eyes wide after Wu Yizi withdrew the protection. His pupils contracted, and his facial features twisted. His body began to tremble involuntarily, and the pain increased exponentially. Even so, Fang Qingshan did not have the slightest intention of giving up. Only by experiencing the bitterness of suffering can one become a superior person. He was originally the last cultivator in the apocalypse, so his willpower was evident. Previously, he had only suffered from sudden pain and couldn't control himself. Now that he had adapted a little, there was no reason for him to give up halfway and waste his efforts. This kind of opportunity was originally prepared by the world for the Child of Luck. If not for his foresight, how could he have landed on Fang Qingshan's head? If he still did not cherish this opportunity, he would probably be struck by lightning and angered by the heavens. As Fang Qingshan gritted his teeth and persisted, he kept moving his inner force round after round. Although Wu Yizi's 70 years of power was surging, it entered Fang Qingshan's body without a source. On the other hand, Fang Qingshan's own inner force was increasing. As time went by, his ability to devour and digest increased greatly. Moreover, because he had adapted to it, he was able to do it more and more smoothly towards the end. As a result, Fang Qingshan's expression gradually calmed down and even revealed a look of enjoyment, as if his nervous system of pain had been completely blocked. The reason for this situation was, of course, adaptation. More importantly, it was the control of the inner force that was like a mountain torrent and a tsunami. Fang Qingshan felt like he could control it with ease. A casual strike had earth-shattering power and the courage of 10,000 men. Fang Qingshan could clearly feel that as long as he could completely control this inner force, even the Fang family's giant spirit hand Fang Tong, who had cultivated to the 8th level of the physique tier, would not be a match for him. Moreover, although Fang Qingshan did not know how to look inside, he could still clearly feel that because of the destruction and reconstruction, the meridians in Fang Qingshan's body had been widened several times. Moreover, they had become even more resilient. Originally, Fang Qingshan had a congenital deficiency. Although his comprehension was good, his body was not just a little bit inferior. Even though he had already recovered from his deficiency due to the restoration of luck, he had missed the optimal age for growth. His meridians and bones had already taken shape, and without heavenly resources, not to mention those geniuses, he would probably be inferior to his peers. However, the transformation of his inner force and medicinal power was like destruction and rebirth. Although it could not compare to the transformation of Fang Han's 9 transformations golden pill, it had increased the potential of his body. He might not be able to catch up to those favored by the heavens, but he was at least stronger than most ordinary people. Of course, in addition to this, Fang Qingshan's willpower had also been greatly tempered. Perhaps the benefits were not yet apparent, but it would be of great benefit to him in breaking through to the psychic realm and even the divine secret realm. After all, willpower had already involved the mind, soul, and primordial spirit. Time passed bit by bit. Wu Yizi and Fang Qingshan were completely immersed in it. One was output, and the other was receiving. They did not notice the change in time at all. However, Su Xinghe, who was guarding them outside, was getting a little anxious. Fortunately, he knew that Wu Yizi and Wu Yizi could not be disturbed. He could only look up at the wooden house from time to time. As time passed, Fang Qingshan and Wu Yizi's state was different from one breath to the next. Fang Qingshan's aura became more and more turbulent as time went on. Apart from other reasons, it was mainly because he could not fully control it. He could not control it as he wished. However, he would be fine after some time. As for Wu Yizi, he was the complete opposite of Fang Qingshan. As his inner force flowed out, his aura became weaker and weaker. His originally youthful and sage-like appearance became shriveled bit by bit, like a zombie or a ghost. Bang! At a certain moment, Fang Qingshan suddenly opened his eyes. There was a flash of light in the darkness. His inner force surged, and with a bang, he separated himself from Wu Yizi. Buzz! Then, he used his sparrow tail to support Wu Yizi and gently placed him on the bed. Wu Yizi had been paralyzed from a stroke for so many years. The reason why he was able to live without suffering was because of his inner force. Today, after passing all of his inner force to Fang Qingshan, he became dispirited as if he did not have long to live. Although he had already thought of this day when he was planning this opportunity, Fang Qingshan still couldn't help but feel a little sad at this moment. Silly child. At that moment, Wu Yizi seemed to have sensed the change in Fang Qingshan's mood. He smiled with relief. There is still a portion of inner force that I have yet to pass to you. Why are you so eager to push me away? Teacher, you have too much inner force. I can't bear it anymore. I have disappointed you, teacher, Fang Qingshan said softly. You. There was a tinge of helplessness in Wu Yizi's voice, but it was more of relief. How could he not know why Fang Qingshan did that? If he used up all of his inner force, the gates of hell would open for him in no time. Forget it. This little bit of inner force isn't much for you, and it's not much either. Wu Yizi smiled and said, I still have some time. I will explain some things about our sect to you and teach you some martial arts. Thank you, teacher. Fang Qingshan nodded. Wu Yizi paused and said, It has been so long. I'm afraid you must be hungry. Ask Xinghe to prepare some food. After eating, you should meditate today to get used to your inner force. From tomorrow onwards, I will teach you the various unique skills of the Carefree sect. Naturally, Fang Qingshan had no objections. Chapter 18. In the whole world, if one were to say which place had the most and most exquisite martial arts, it would be Shaolin. The world's martial arts originated from Shaolin. The 72 ultimate martial arts were famous all over the world. Jiumaji, Murong Bo, and Xiao Yuan Shan, 3 of the 4 uniques of the Sky Dragon, could never forget it. In fact, if one were to say which place had the most exquisite martial arts, it would be Xiaoyao sect. First of all, although Shaolin Temple had 72 unique skills, and they would also collect the martial arts of other sects for various reasons, but compared to the world-famous Huanshui Pavilion, in terms of knowledge, they were still a notch lower. After all, the Murong family's martial arts of returning a taste of their own medicine could be said to be world-famous. And if they wanted to achieve this, they would definitely have to study the martial arts of other sections. As for Xiaoyao sect, just the Fortune Cave alone was not inferior to the Huanshui Pavilion. Murong Fu's family had the Huanshui Pavilion, but they still couldn't forget it and coveted the Fortune Cave. From this, it could be seen that at least it was not inferior to Xiaoyao sect's Huanshui Pavilion. And this was just what Wu Yizi and Li Qiushui had collected in the Infinite Jade Cave. Xiaoyao sect was divided into 3 branches. In addition to Wu Yizi's branch of Beating Drum Mountain, there was also Vulture Palace's Tianshan Tonglao and Xixia's Li Qiushui. Each of them also had a sutra depository that contained many profound martial arts. As for the most exquisite martial arts, not to mention Xiaorao sect's legendary Everlasting Eternal Youth, Wu Xingyun's 8 Desolation and 6 Direction Supremacy, Wu Yizi's Dark North Divine Art, and Li Qiushui's Minor Phaseless Art. Unfortunately, the Marrow Cleansing Art had long been lost. Of course, the future Nine-Yang Divine Art could also be used, but whether it belonged to Shaolin or not was debatable. In the end, Shaolin only got 1/3 of it. Originally, after Wu Yizi released all his martial arts, his soul would have passed away in less than an hour. However, because Fang Qingshan couldn't bear to do it, he didn't completely absorb it. Although Wu Yizi was now old, he survived and didn't die on the spot. Therefore, in the following days, Fang Qingshan settled down in the valley with peace of mind. During the day, Wu Yizi taught him the various martial arts of the Carefree sect. The Xiaorao faction collected martial arts from all sects in the world. Although the Xiaorao faction did not have as many martial arts as the Shaolin Temple, each of them could be regarded as the treasure of the faction, such as the Sky Mountain Six-Yang Palm, the White Rainbow Palm, the Sky Mountain Plum Breaking Hand, the Life and Death Note, the Soul-Searching Technique, and the Wave-like Subtle Steps. At night, he meditated alone, continuously moving his internal energy so that he could better control it and turn it into his own strength. After all, Although he had reached the heavens in a single step and saved half a century of time, his foundation was still unstable. Duan Yu and Xu Zhu had a series of fortuitous encounters, and their rise was unstoppable. In a short period of time, they became one of the top experts in the world. Whether it was internal energy or martial arts, they were all the best. However, compared to Qiao Feng, they were still inferior. Qiao Feng only had the 18 dragon subduing palms. There was only one reason why such a situation would occur, and that was the difference between training hard and fortuitous encounters. Training hard allowed one to completely control one's strength, and one could unleash 10% or even 12% of one's strength. Fortuitous encounters allowed one to unleash 10% or even less of one's strength. Although Fang Qingshan knew this, he didn't care. It wasn't that he didn't care about his foundation, but he had other ideas. He wanted to use internal energy as nourishment to cultivate the dragon-elephant prajna art, which was the top body refining technique in the world of martial arts. In the valley, the happiest person during this time was Su Xinghe. He had fulfilled his promise to his master. He had found a disciple with a delicate physique, so he didn't have to pretend to be deaf and mute in the future. Moreover, he was already mentally prepared, but Wu Yazi didn't die. This naturally made him overjoyed, especially when he saw the happy smile on his master's face every day. Su Xinghe couldn't help but burst into tears. Because of this, Su Xinghe really liked Fang Qingshan from the bottom of his heart. He didn't neglect the things that Fang Qingshan told him to do, and he completed them meticulously. Time flowed like water, and the years were peaceful. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In the past half a month, Fang Qingshan was able to control Wu Yazi's inner force at will. He could command it as if it was his own arm. As for the martial arts movements, he did not practice much. Wu Yazi knew that his time was up, so he wanted to teach him all the unique skills of the Xiaorao sect. However, Fang Qingshan refused. He only chose a martial art technique called wave-like subtle steps and a palm technique called Tianshan's 6 solar palms. After all, the quality of martial arts was more important than the quantity. In this regard, Wu Yazi was full of happiness and worry. On one hand, Fang Qingshan could resist the temptation to learn so many divine skills, but he could only focus on one or two. This was naturally the right thing to do. Although the way of martial arts was to learn from others, it was only when one's martial arts reached a certain level. If one wanted to run without learning how to walk, the final result would be nothing. On the other hand, he thought that he couldn't hold on for long. Could it be that he had to take all the unique skills of the Carefree sect into his coffin? But then he felt relieved. After all, he wasn't alone. Even if he couldn't pass on the skills, he could still ask his senior and junior sisters to help teach him, even though he had let them down. He was carefree from day to night, but Fang Qingshan and Su Xinghe's hearts sank. Although Fang Qingshan didn't absorb all of Wu Yazi's martial arts, it was still less than 1/10 of it. The reason why he could live so well all these years was because of his inner force. Now that his inner force couldn't completely suppress his injuries and age, he naturally became older day by day. After half a month, he would involuntarily get distracted from time to time. Obviously, even if Wu Yazi didn't absorb all of his inner force, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. If nothing unexpected happened, Wu Yazi's soul would die in half a year at most. Qingshan, do you have something on your mind? On this day, Wu Yazi was guiding Fang Qingshan's martial arts as usual. When he saw that Fang Qingshan was absent-minded, he couldn't help but shake his head and ask in a deep voice. On the path of martial arts, the biggest taboo is to be distracted. Although you have obtained all of my skills and are basically invincible in the Jianghu, except for a limited number of people, if you are satisfied with the current situation, I am afraid that your achievements in this life will stop here. That is really disappointing. Wu Yazi had high hopes for Fang Qingshan, but in the past few days, Fang Qingshan had been impatient, which disappointed him greatly. He couldn't help but reprimand him. Disciple. Fang Qingshan's face turned red, but he didn't refute. Just when he was about to admit his mistake, something strange happened. Senior, it's been so many years. Haven't you thought about your junior sister? I'm so sad that she's hiding in the wilderness. A voice came from afar. It was neither too fast nor too slow, as if it was whispering into his ear. It was the secret technique of the carefree sect, the soul-searching technique. Chapter 19. Miss you? How can a lowly servant like you be worthy of my junior brother missing you? Another voice was heard as soon as the other side finished speaking. Although they had both used the soul-searching technique, their reactions were completely different. The former was sorrowful, while the latter was domineering and arrogant. Fang Qingshan's face lit up when he heard this. Needless to say, these two people were Wu Xingyun and Empress Dowager Li Qiushui of Tianshan. Fang Qingshan had asked Su Xinghe to send a message to them through a disciple. He did this because he knew that although Wu Yazi liked Li Songhai, he still felt guilty towards Li Qiushui and Empress Dowager Li Qiushui. If he could see them before he died, it would be one of his wishes fulfilled. Secondly, he had a thought in his heart. Although he had come to Beating Drum Mountain to plot against Wu Yizi, he felt that it would be a pity to let Wu Yizi die just like that after spending so many days with him. Therefore, he wanted to save him. However, if he was alone, he would not be able to kill Wu Yazi even if he wanted to. After all, Wu Yazi was not only a martial arts grandmaster, but he was also proficient in medicine, divination, astrology, zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, machinery, farming, drinking, singing, guessing riddles, the 5 elements and 8 trigrams, Chiman Duanjia, irrigation, economics, military strategy, and so on. Otherwise, how could he have taught the world-renowned miracle Dr. Shui? Even Wu Yazi, who had painstakingly cultivated for 30 years, could not do anything about the injuries on his body. He could only watch as Wu Yazi's condition worsened bit by bit until his time was up. Wu Yazi had to linger in the dark wooden house, not to mention Fang Qingshan. However, the situation would be different if Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui were added to the mix. Not to mention Li Qiushui. Just Yuzhu alone was able to change Zi's eyes just by reading the medical books of the Heavenly Mountain Vulture Palace. It could be seen that Wu Xingyun's medical skills were not low. With the help of the two of them and Fang Qingshan's way of thinking, he believed that there was a chance of success. Of course, if it still didn't work out in the end, Fang Qingshan could only say that he had done his best and leave the rest to the heavens. At the very least, it would allow the 3 unfettered elders to reunite after 30 years. That could be considered to be a load off their minds. However, unlike Fang Qingshan's happiness, Wu Yizi, who was reprimanding Fang Qingshan with a sullen face, had a drastic change in his expression when he heard these two voices. He glared fiercely at Su Xinghe and hurriedly said to Fang Qingshan, "Qingshan, hurry and take me away." The reason why he did this was because he felt guilty towards Wu Xingyun and Su Xinghe. He felt that he had betrayed them and was too ashamed to face the elders of Jiangdong. Thus, even though he had been plotted against by Ding Chuanxiu and had been struggling at death's door for 30 years, he still did not let Su Xinghe send a letter to them. Furthermore, the unfettered sect's disciples were quite interesting. Not only did they have to have top-notch comprehension and aptitude, but they also had to be handsome. In other words, the unfettered sect was a place that valued appearance. If one was not handsome or beautiful, they would not care at all. At this moment, Wu Yizi was old and clumsy. Only Fang Qingshan and Su Xinghe were still fine. If the 2 senior and junior sisters, who were still as beautiful as flowers and jade, saw him in this state, Wu Yizi would not be able to accept it. "Junior brother, are you that unwilling to see us? Go? You still want to hide after hiding for 30 years? Wu Yizi, you disappoint me." Before Fang Qingshan could move, 2 figures appeared in the valley like ghosts, one in front and one behind, one tall and one short. The tall one had a veil over her face. Her figure was slender and graceful. Her dress fluttered in the wind, making her look like a fairy. The short one was as small and exquisite as a little girl. However, the domineering aura she exuded was incompatible with her figure. The 2 of them, one in Western Xia and the other in Sky Mountain, had unexpectedly arrived at the Beating Drum Mountain at the same time. When they arrived at the valley, the 2 of them looked at each other and snorted coldly at the same time. They did not speak and looked around. There were only 3 people in the valley, one old and one young. The last one had half of his body in the ground. Although the young man was handsome and elegant, Li Qiushui might have taken a second look at him in the past. However, at this moment, she only took a glance at him and did not care. The 2 old ones, on the other hand, looked a little familiar. After a closer look, they realized that it was Su Xinghe. However, compared to his appearance in the past, it was indeed a little unsightly. The 2 of them could not help but frown at the same time. As for the remaining person who was about to die, the 2 of them did not care about him. They did not even bother to look at him. Su Xinghe, how did you end up like this? You are simply a disgrace to the unfettered sect. Wu Xingyun glared at Su Xinghe and reprimanded. The unfettered sect always selected people with delicate bones and handsome faces. In the past, Su Xinghe was also a little fresh meat. In addition, the martial arts of the unfettered sect, whether it was the 8 Desolation and 6 Direction Supremacy, or the Minor Phaseless Method, Dark North Divine Method, and so on, all had the effect of delaying aging and preserving youth. Therefore, when they saw Su Xinghe's appearance, the 2 of them felt very uncomfortable. Especially since he was Wu Yizi's disciple. Wasn't this a disgrace to Wu Yizi? Therefore, Wu Xingyun scolded him directly because he hated him for not living up to his expectations. This time, not only because they knew that Wu Yizi was present, but also because Li Qiushui agreed with Wu Xingyun's point of view. She scolded, Xinghe, it's not that martial uncle wants to scold you, but in the past, you were obsessed with the zither, chess, calligraphy, and other miscellaneous arts. You haven't improved after all these years, but you still can't neglect your martial arts. Humph! When Wu Xingyun heard Li Qiushui's words, he coldly snorted and said to Su Xinghe, you sent us a message saying that your master is here. Where is he? Don't tell me he ran away when he saw us. Su Xinghe heard this and broke out in a cold sweat. He looked up at Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui, but his eyes glanced at Wu Yizi. He stammered and couldn't speak. Seeing that Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui's expressions were getting uglier, he couldn't help but shift the blame to others. He said to Fang Qingshan, little junior brother, why don't you explain to the 2 martial uncles? You were the one who asked me to send the message anyway. Little junior brother? It wasn't just Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui. At this moment, even Wu Yizi looked at Fang Qingshan. Wu Yizi was wondering why Su Xinghe had never disobeyed his orders for the past 30 years. Why was he so bold today? It turned out that it was all because of this little bastard. He couldn't help but gnash his teeth in hatred. As for Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui, they didn't pay attention to Fang Qingshan at first. Now that they knew that he was Wu Yizi's last disciple, they naturally sized him up with scrutinizing gazes. At first glance, he was elegant and handsome, very much in line with the aesthetics of the carefree faction. When they looked again, they were shocked. Although Fang Qingshan could control his internal energy freely, they could easily see that his internal energy was not far from theirs, even if it wasn't as strong as theirs. Chapter 20. What an interesting young man. Let martial uncle see how much of your master's teachings you have learned. Li Qiushui immediately laughed. Her voice was like a bell, like that of a young woman. Anyone who heard it would have a good impression of her. Slut. You have no sense of shame. You're used to using such seductive techniques. No wonder junior brother left you. Wu Xingyun was definitely not on good terms with Li Qiushui. After enduring for a while, he began to mock her again. Is that so? Although Li Qiushui's face turned green, she was not angry. She still asked in a soft voice, this is better than senior sister's unrequited love. You. Wu Xingyun cultivated the 8 Desolation and 6 Direction Supremacy technique. It was similar to the Sunflower Treasure. There was an excess of yang energy, like a barrel of gunpowder. Of course, if it was someone else, this would not have happened. The key was that this person was Li Qiushui. Wu Xingyun's hatred for her could not be washed away by all the water in the 5 lakes and 3 rivers. As long as she provoked him, it would explode immediately. Li Qiushui seemed to know what Wu Xingyun was going to do. She ignored it and immediately attacked Fang Qingshan. This made Wu Xingyun, who was about to make a move, unable to attack or not. A ball of anger accumulated in his chest. Sigh. Seeing this scene, Wu Yazi, who had been silent, could not help but sigh secretly. The guilt in his heart grew. He knew that the reason why his senior and junior sisters were fighting like this was all because of him. He had let them down. Disregarding what Wu Yazi was thinking, Fang Qingshan's heart froze when he saw Li Qiushui's attack. However, he could not help but feel happy. He was serious because although he had obtained all of Wu Yazi's skills, compared to Li Qiushui, he did not have an advantage in terms of skills, techniques, or experience. He was happy because he had not had a good fight ever since his cultivation improved. Wu Yazi could not fight, and Su Xinghe was no match for him. Now that there was an expert like Li Qiushui who could make him go all out, he could measure how much strength he had now. How could he not be happy? Therefore, when he saw Li Qiushui's palm strike lightly coming towards him, Fang Qingshan did not retreat, but advanced instead. He circulated all the power in his body and similarly struck out with his palm. At first, Li Qiushui thought that Fang Qingshan was a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers. He couldn't help but shake his head inwardly. In the end, he was still inexperienced. But after seeing the palm technique that Fang Qingshan used, Li Qiushui's expression changed drastically. On the contrary, Wu Xingyun's face was filled with joy as he roared towards the sky. Apart from the Northern Underworld divine art, Fang Qingshan only knew a footwork technique, the wave-like subtle steps, and a palm technique, the Heavenly Mountain 6 Yang Palm. At this moment, it was naturally the 6 solar palms of Heavenly Mountain. The Heavenly Mountain 6 Yang Palm was one of the few palm techniques in the Carefree sect. Although it was not better than the world's #1 palm technique, the 18 Dragon Subduing Palms, it was not far off. This palm technique had a total of 9 moves. It was a palm technique that combined yin and yang. It was similar to the Kantong Sect's Fist of 7 Injuries. Perhaps the Kantong Sect's Fist of 7 Injuries was created from the remnant of the Heavenly Mountain 6 Yang Palm. Its origin was similar to the Absorbing Stars skill and the Northern Underworld divine art. Of course, the most important thing was that this palm technique was Wu Xingyun's unique skill. However, because Wu Yazi was the sect leader of the Carefree sect, he also had the manual of the 6 Yang Palm. Originally, this wasn't a big deal. The crux was that in the eyes of these 2 old women who were trapped by love, the situation was completely different. In their eyes, this was clearly a choice that Wu Yazi had made unconsciously, and it was a choice that he had made from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, Li Qiushui was angry, Wu Xingyun was happy, and Wu Yazi could not help laughing. Originally, Li Qiushui only wanted to test Fang Qingshan and give him some pointers to leave a good impression on Wu Yazi. However, at this moment, she no longer had such thoughts. Her originally restrained palm force suddenly burst out, and she had already used 90% of her power. Ha ha! This bitch is angry out of humiliation. The more unhappy Li Qiushui was, the happier Wu Xingyun was. He laughed and said, "Don't worry, kid. Listen to me. 30% yin, 70% yang. Step on Tianquan and attack her yin Lingquan acupoint. 40% yang, 60% yin. Step on Tianshu and attack her armpit. 90% yang, 1% yin. Pluck green onions from dry land, bathe in the East Sea." With Tianshan Tonglau's pointers and his strong inner force, Fang Qingshan persevered under Li Qiushui's attacks, even though he could not focus on one thing and lose sight of the other. His understanding of the Tianshan 6 Yang Palms increased. After all, although Wu Yazi had the secret manual of the Tianshan 6 Yang Palms and had a high realm, he was still not as good as Tianshan Tonglao. She had immersed herself in it for half of her life. With her pointers, listening to her words was better than studying for 10 years. Good kid. You've made me proud. Go all out and attack. Don't hesitate. If you can win against this bitch, I won't treat you badly. Tianshan Tonglao saw that Fang Qingshan's Tianshan 6 Yang Palms improved by leaps and bounds under her pointers. Under Li Qiushui's attacks, he actually managed to stabilize himself. She was overjoyed. On one hand, she tempted Fang Qingshan, and on the other, she mocked Li Qiushui. A junior sister, it's been so many years, but you still haven't improved. You can't even deal with a junior now. Are you old? No wonder junior brother left you. He can't take it anymore. I'm old? Li Qiushui was already uncomfortable with Fang Qingshan's cultivation of the Tianshan 6 yang palms. In addition, she couldn't take him down after such a long time. Furthermore, under the pointers of the old witch, Wu Xingyun, he was able to fight her well. The anger in her heart was like a volcano that was about to erupt. After being provoked by Wu Xingyun, she immediately replied, "Senior sister, is it because you're old that your memory is bad? You're older than senior brother by 3 years. If junior sister is old, wouldn't you be halfway into the grave?" This time, perhaps because Fang Qingshan had made her proud, Wu Xingyun didn't get angry. Instead, she said calmly, "Thank you for your concern, junior sister. I do want to be old, but unfortunately, I have to rejuvenate once every 30 years. It's really annoying." Rejuvenate? I think you'll never grow up. You can only be a dwarf. Li Qiushui added another stab. As the saying goes, don't hit people in the face. Li Qiushui's words were undoubtedly pouring salt on the wound. She immediately succeeded in breaking Wu Xingyun's cultivation. "Lowly servant, you still have the nerve to say that. If it wasn't for your malicious heart and sneak attack Grandma when she was cultivating, how would I end up like this? How would junior brother fall in love with you?" Wu Xingyun was furious, but then she changed the topic and laughed. "Unfortunately, although you've obtained senior brother's body, you'll never obtain his heart." Chapter 21. Listening to Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyun's verbal battle, Fang Qingshan was in pain and happy at the same time. Naturally, he was happy because under the pressure of Li Qiushui, the Northern Underworld divine technique was running wildly, which made his use of internal force to a higher level. After all, this time, the only thing that could not pull him far away from Li Qiushui was internal force. Moreover, under the guidance of Tianshan Tonglao, his control of the Tianshan 6 yang palm successfully went from the beginner level to the minor achievement, which saved him half a year of effort. Sure enough, the combination of actual combat and teacher's guidance was the fastest way to improve. In addition, Fang Qingshan's biggest gain was the control of the yin and yang forces. As mentioned earlier, the 6 solar palms of Tianshan was not only a yang palm technique comparable to the 18 dragon-subduing palms, but it was also a palm technique that combined the 2 energies of yin and yang. No matter how ruthless the opponent's attack was, it could be neutralized. Moreover, during the neutralization, there would be a fierce counterattack. As for the way of yin and yang, the most famous martial arts in the world was the Taiji Fist of Zhang Sanfeng, the founder of the Wudong sect. Before Fang Qingshan traveled to this world, or even before he came to the Tianlong world, he was best at Taiji Fist. Unfortunately, the Blue Sea turned into mulberry fields, the Wudong Pai sect guarding divine skill in the past, the Taiji Fist that Zhang Sanfeng relied on to become famous throughout the ages. In the age of chaos, its exquisite profound meaning did not even exist. Only a few moves and strength training methods remained. This time, Fang Qingshan's biggest improvement was in the Tianshan 6 yang palm, but in Taiji Fist. Without the Taiji Heart method, the Northern Underworld divine technique was activated, and it was harmless. With the understanding of yin and yang changes, hardness and softness, and weight, Fang Qingshan's understanding of Taiji Fist could be said to have reached a higher level. Naturally, with Wu Xingyun's provocation from time to time, Fang Qingshan was the unlucky one in the end. Although he had Wu Xingyun's guidance, how could the on-the-spot teaching compare to the experienced Li Qiushui? If he did not have Wu Yazi's internal force to protect his body, he would have been beaten to death by Li Qiushui. Even so, every single strike that landed on his body would still hurt. Especially when Li Qiushui attacked, there was a faint chill. Even with his inner force protecting his body, Fang Qingshan still felt a chill. The acupoints all over his body were aching as if they were being pricked by needles. Her cultivation seemed to have reached the 9th level of the fleshly body stage, psychic connection. Under Li Qiushui's attack, Fang Qingshan was gradually unable to hold on. Wu Xingyun was about to help, and Wu Yazi was about to open his mouth when Fang Qingshan's face turned solemn. He moved his feet and retreated a certain distance. Then, he waved his hands and displayed the white crane spreading its wings. It wasn't easy for an expert like Li Qiushui to give him a taste of his moves. He could go all out, and his life wasn't in danger. How could Fang Qingshan give up so easily? Seeing this scene, Li Qiushui, Wu Xingyun, and Wu Yazi couldn't help but exclaim at the same time. Although Fang Qingshan's moves seemed to be full of flaws, and a casual attack could cause the person who displayed this fist technique to retreat with serious injuries, the three of them were martial arts masters. Naturally, they wouldn't be so short-sighted. The three of them could clearly sense that while Fang Qingshan appeared to be lax and sloppy, seemingly full of openings, upon closer inspection, they realized that Fang Qingshan was like a Taiji diagram. No matter which direction he attacked from, he would immediately defend against it. Furthermore, he would have to fall into his trap. Interesting. It seems like this is another martial art that Senior Brother created in recent years. I want to see how it compares to the other absolute arts of our carefree sect. Seeing this scene, both Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyun thought that it was created by Wu Yazi. Only Wu Yazi knew that it wasn't, but he was also amazed by the exquisiteness of this fist technique. Although he hadn't seen Fang Qingshan display it, he could tell that it was definitely a fist technique that wasn't weaker than the 6 solar palm. I wonder where Qingshan learned this fist technique from. Regardless of what Wu Yazi and Wu Xingyun thought, Li Qiushui was excited and took the initiative to attack. However, Li Qiushui moved his feet like a lotus leaf swaying in the wind and instantly appeared in front of Fang Qingshan. He waved his long sleeve and swept it toward Fang Qingshan's leg joints. He used the cold sleeve acupuncture point technique. However, Fang Qingshan easily removed the sleeve with the Taiji cloud hand. He took a step forward and pushed his palm toward his opponent's shoulder. This seemingly soft palm fell into Li Qiushui's eyes, but it was light as if it was heavy. Li Qiushui didn't dodge. She faced Fang Qingshan's push with her palm. Although Fang Qingshan's inner force was strong, it was still inferior to Li Qiushui's. He didn't want to fight head-on with her at all. Halfway through, his fist drew a circle. Then, Li Qiushui's expression changed. It turned out that Li Qiushui's palm didn't receive any force. It was like a clay ox entering the sea. Fang Qingshan easily deflected Li Qiushui's incomparably sharp palm. Interesting. Again. However, Li Qiushui's figure flickered, and layers of afterimages appeared. She used the wave-like, subtle steps to the extreme. Her attack was as fast as lightning and as graceful as a swan. In an instant, she hit 18 palms in a row, from top to bottom, left to right, and from all directions. She completely enveloped Fang Qingshan. Seeing this scene, Wu Xingyun and Wu Yazi were a little worried, but they didn't say anything. They knew that although Li Qiushui was unhappy that Fang Qingshan learned the Tianshan 6 solar palm instead of the Baihong palm that she was good at, she would only teach him a little lesson and not kill him. Moreover, she was very interested in the fist technique that Fang Qingshan suddenly displayed. She wanted to see how he would deal with it. In the field, Li Qiushui was actually using speed to fight slow, using force to suppress Fang Qingshan. Not to mention whether or not Fang Qingshan would be able to dodge. Just the profound meaning of Taiji Fist was to use softness to overcome hardness. This left him with only one path to take. But facing Li Qiushui's attack, he actually lowered his eyes, as if he did not see her attack at all. He actually minded his own business, slowly raising his 2 arms to his chest, his left arm in a half circle, his palm facing Yin palm, and his right palm flipping over Yang palm. His hands formed a Tai Chi-style circle, and then drew a circle in front of his chest. Before the first circle was finished, the second circle had already appeared. The big circle encircled the small circle. The flat circle encircled the vertical circle. The straight circle encircled the slanted circle. One after another, Taiji circles emerged from Fang Qingshan's hands. For a moment, a Tai Chi pattern appeared under Fang Qingshan's feet. And when Li Qiushui's attack landed, it was either turned, deflected, led, or shifted by those circles. It really was as if he was strong. Let him be strong. I'll be strong. I'll be strong. He'll be strong. I'll be strong. He'll 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 be strong. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Seeing this scene, both Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyan could not help but exclaim in admiration. Although using softness to overcome hardness and using 4 ounces to move 1,000 caddies wasn't the mainstream martial arts, it wasn't unheard of. However, to be able to use a fist technique like this to counter the opponent's attack after the opponent's attack, and to master the transformation of yin and yang was something that had never been seen before. Chapter 22. Again, when one's cultivation reached a certain level, if one wanted to improve further, one would need to follow the laws of nature. The reason why the free and unfettered faction liked to collect the martial arts of various sects, be it the Vulture Palace, the Western Xia Country, or the Blessed Cave of Langxian, all had places similar to the Sutras Depository. It was because they needed to see more martial arts and learn from others. Today, Li Qiushui only wanted to test his martial nephew's martial arts and give some pointers to the younger generation. However, he saw a martial art that he had never seen before and was not weaker than the top martial arts of the Xiaorao sect. How could this not make Li Qiushui happy? Seeing that fast attacks and strong attacks couldn't defeat Fang Qingshan quickly, he was like a roly-poly doll. No matter how fast the torrent was, he was still like a rock in the river. Li Qiushui's competitive spirit was aroused. He immediately exerted all his strength and displayed his unique skill, the Baihong Palm Force. He struck with his palm from afar, and a palm force broke through the air. It was supposed to be a frontal attack, but unexpectedly, the palm force suddenly stopped, turned, and attacked from the left. This was the essence of this martial art. When it was launched in the form of the air-splitting palm, it seemed to be facing the enemy head-on, but in fact, the direction of the palm force was uncertain, and it was difficult for the opponent to detect it. It was unpredictable. If it were someone else, they would definitely be at a disadvantage in such a situation. But Fang Qingshan was different. Not only did he know, but Wu Yazi had also specially explained it to him. In addition, he was using the Taiji fist, which could be used to attack later. Although the Baihong Palm Force was exquisite, it was greatly reduced in front of him. Even so, facing Li Qiushui's attack with the Taiji fist, Fang Qingshan had to step back and transfer the force to his feet in order to reduce the pressure. Therefore, Fang Qingshan could be seen retreating step by step under Li Qiushui's attack, leaving footprints 3 feet deep in the ground. Even so, Fang Qingshan relied on the Taiji fist and was able to retreat under Li Qiushui's storm-like attacks without being defeated. Although the one who would be defeated in the end would definitely be him. After all, a prolonged defense would lead to a loss. This was already very rare. After all, in the whole world, only the old monk of the Shaolin Temple dared to say that he could win against Li Qiushui. Apart from Wu Xingyan, there was probably no one else who could compete with him. That was why Fang Qingshan could last so long under Li Qiushui's attack. Xiaomaji, Xiao Yuanshan, and the others might not be able to do as well. Therefore, no matter if it was Li Qiushui, Wu Xingyan, or Wu Yazi, they all felt relieved when they saw this scene. They felt that they had a successor. After the 3 of them, the Carefree sect finally had another top master. Even if he died, they could go and see their master, the Carefree sect, in peace. Divine techniques and secret manuals were rare, but excellent inheritors were even rarer. Su Xing, he had set up this exquisite chess game for 30 years, but no one had been able to solve it. Dali's Duan clan had ultimate techniques like single sun finger, and 6 Pulse Divine Sword. But they still did not have a top-notch elite. Gusu's Murong clan might have the reputation of Qiao Feng in the south and Murong clan in the north, but Murong Fu's strength was still far from Qiao Feng's. Therefore, it was rare to find a disciple who could carry on the past and open up the future. Bang! When Fang Qingshan received another palm from Li Qiushui, he no longer left behind footprints. His legs directly plowed 2 grooves on the ground. His cheeks were pale, and his hands were trembling slightly. Clearly, he had reached his limit. All right. Just as Li Qiushui was about to attack, Wu Xingyun appeared before Fang Qingshan with a cold smile. What? Because junior brother doesn't have you in his heart, he became angry out of humiliation. Not only did he bully the weak, he even wanted to kill someone to vent his anger. Do you want junior brother to see how vicious you are? Who asked you to meddle? I just wanted to test Marshall Nephew's limits. What are you trying to do by sowing discord between us? Do you think that senior brother will change his mind if you pretend to be virtuous and virtuous? He already knew about your viciousness. That's why he chose me. How could Li Qiushui be someone who would just take a beating without retaliating? He did not seem to be at a disadvantage when facing Wu Xingyun. After adjusting his breathing, Fang Qingshan, who had just heaved a sigh of relief, saw that Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui were about to start a fight, so he hurriedly stepped forward to stop them. Martial uncles, I didn't invite you here to fight. After hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui came back to their senses and thought about their main purpose of coming here. Therefore, they asked at the same time, Marshal Nephew, where did your master go? Far away on the horizon, but close at hand. Seeing that they had finally remembered their main purpose, Fang Qingshan could not help but heave a sigh of relief. If the 2 of them were to fight, he would not be able to stop them, nor would he be able to separate them. If they were not careful, there was a possibility that the 2 of them would perish together. This was not what he wanted to see. Moreover, he had invited them here to save Wu Yizi. If they were to die, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? Far away on the horizon, but close at hand, Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui could not help but frown at the same time. Apart from the 2 of them, there were only 3 people present. Su Xinghe and Fang Qingshan were definitely not, so the only one left was the sloppy old man who was slumped on the chair like a boneless animal. However, how could this be the senior brother that the 2 of them had been thinking about? Kid, are you fooling around with martial uncles? Wu Xingyun's eyes flashed with anger. Yes, martial nephew. The consequences of deceiving martial uncle are very serious. Although Li Qiushui's voice was still gentle and moving, the coldness in it was obvious. How dare I? Fang Qingshan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Martial uncle doesn't believe me, but senior brother Su's words can't be wrong, right? Hearing this, the 2 of them looked at Su Xinghe in unison. Su Xinghe immediately felt the pressure on him and broke out in cold sweat. He nodded his head stiffly. Wu Xingyun and Li Qiushui turned their heads in disbelief and looked at Wu Yizi. They opened their mouths, but no sound came out. It was as if something was blocking their throats. Besides, it's been 30 years. Senior sister and junior sister are still as beautiful as ever, but Wu Yizi is approaching the end of his life. However, it's a great relief to be able to see both senior sister and junior sister at the last moment. Wu Yizi could not help but sigh bitterly when he saw that the 2 of them could not accept it. The reason why he did not let Su Xinghe tell the 2 of them for 30 years was because he did not want them to see him like this. It's really you, Wu Yizi, senior brother. Although they knew that Fang Qingshan and Li Qiushui would not lie to them, and they also felt a familiar aura from Wu Yizi's body, they were still skeptical. It was only when Wu Yizi personally spoke that they realized that it was true. With a flash, the 2 of them arrived in front of Wu Yizi. Chapter 23. Strange things happened every year, but there were many this year. Wu Xingyun and Su Lingshui had never thought that this sloppy, poor, beggar-like old man was the talented and beautiful Wu Yizi in their memories. The 2 of them came to Wu Yizi's side and looked him up and down. Although they believed him, they still hoped that it was a joke. They were disappointed in the end. Wu Yazi, how did you become like this? Wu Xingyin carefully touched Wu Yazi's face as if he was afraid that he would kill him if he used too much force. Something's not right. Li Qiushui suddenly thought of how Wu Yazi could have aged so much with his cultivation. Now that something like this had happened, then Li Qiushui suddenly grabbed Wu Yazi's wrist and checked. Her expression changed immediately. Senior brother, where's your inner strength? Wu Xingyin looked at Li Qiushui and injected his inner strength into Wu Yazi's body. He was furious. Who is it, Wu Yazi? Who did you say it was? It's done. Wu Yazi didn't answer them. It was already miserable enough for Wu Xingyin and Wu Yazi to see him like this. If they knew that he had met the wrong person and was plotted against by his own disciple, he would be even more ashamed. Senior sister, junior sister, you don't have to worry about this. Qing Shan will avenge me. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. I'm really happy to see you again before my time is up. Time is up? At this moment, Fang Qingshan suddenly spoke. Master, aren't you being too pessimistic? Everyone was stunned by Fang Qingshan's words and did not know what he meant. Wu Yazi was a family member and knew his own situation. Although he still had some inner strength left, he would only be able to survive for another half a year. Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyin had just checked Wu Yazi's body and knew that he was not only seriously injured, but his inner strength had also dissipated. They were not Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, so they could not kill him even if they wanted to. Su Xinghe had already mentally prepared himself. He thought that Wu Yazi gang would die a few months ago. He was already overjoyed to be able to live a little longer. Looking at everyone's dumbfounded expression, Fang Qingshan chuckled. Master, senior brother, you can't be thinking that I invited my martial uncles and martial uncles here just for them to reminisce, right? Su Xinghe had spent some time with Fang Qingshan, so he had a better understanding of him. At this moment, after hearing Fang Qingshan's words, he couldn't help but tremble. He stuttered, but looked at Fang Qingshan with boundless hope and asked, could it be that junior brother has a way to save masters? You have a way? Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyun's expressions also changed drastically as they looked nervously at Fang Qingshan. Wu Yazi, on the other hand, did not care. After all, he had lived for so long. He had already told everything that needed to be said. Even if he died now, it would be fine. After all, it was better to live a bad life than to die a good death. However, he was a medical expert and knew his body's condition like the back of his hand. Naturally, he knew that the book of life and death had already been taken out of his hands. Being able to live one more day was a gift from God. However, he did not know where Fang Qingshan got the confidence to actually have a way to save him. I dare not say 100%, but I think the chances are quite high. Fang Qingshan did not dare to guarantee anything. He could only do his best and leave the rest to God. Even so, to Li Qiushui and the rest, it was as if they had grasped onto a life-saving straw. After all, they had no other way but to sit and wait for Wu Yazi to die. But at least Fang Qingshan had a way. It was a desperate attempt. Good lad, your master did not accept you as a disciple for nothing. Wu Xingyin was overjoyed. Tell me, what should we do? If you need my help, just tell me. As long as you can save your master, you will be the new master of the Tianshan Vulture Palace in the future. You will be in charge of the 36 caves and 72 islands. That's right. What do you need? Just tell me. My Xixia country will help you with the strength of the whole country. As long as you can save my senior brother, I will help you even if you want to be the emperor. Li Qiushui also made a promise without any hesitation. Alas! Wu Yazi could not help but let out a long sigh when he saw that Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyin were willing to give up their foundation to save him. Qingshan, if you can save him, then save him. If you can't, then don't force yourself. Master has already expected this day. He has lived long enough. Shut up! Wu Xingyin and Wu Xingyin interrupted Wu Yazi at the same time before he could finish his words. This was the first time that the two of them worked together. They looked at each other and did not speak. They had temporarily put aside their grudges. The most important thing now was to save Wu Yazi. Otherwise, What was the point of fighting for half of their lives? Wu Yazi obviously did not expect that he would be scolded by his senior sister and junior sister at the same time. He was caught unprepared and stood there awkwardly. Fang Qingshan found it funny. He only stopped laughing when Wu Yazi glared at him. "Lad, tell us, how should we treat Wu Yazi's injuries?" Wu Xingyun asked immediately. Fang Qingshan nodded. After a moment of deliberation, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "The reason why Master was able to persevere for 30 years was actually because of his thick inner energy, supporting him and suppressing his injuries. Now that his injuries have become like a mountain torrent as he ages, even his inner energy can't suppress it anymore. That's why before he reaches the end of his life, Master decided to pass on his inner energy to me." After a pause, Fang Qingshan continued, "Then we have to solve two problems now. One is his injuries, and the other is his internal energy. Master's injuries have already accumulated to a point where it is difficult to recover. I'm afraid that just relying on medical skills will not be enough to save him. Although I know nothing about medical skills, this can be seen from the fact that even Master, Martial Uncle, and Martial Uncle, who are all divine physicians, are helpless." Wu Yazi and the other two nodded helplessly. Although they had high cultivation bases, they were still mortals. Although it was said that they could revive the dead and snatch people from the king of hell, it was just an exaggeration. However, Fang Qingshan suddenly changed the topic when he saw the three people's puzzled expressions. "Although my medical skills are not good, I know a martial art that is not of a high level, but in terms of healing, it is the best in both the present and the past. What martial art is that?" Hearing this, everyone asked in unison. "Dali's Duan's solar finger." Fang Qingshan said word by word. Dali's Duan's solar finger? The Duans of Dali was still very famous in this era. The solar finger was considered a superior martial art. However, its healing abilities had obviously not been discovered by the public. Wu Xingyun and the others could not help but be skeptical. Chapter 24. That's right. Fang Qingshan nodded with certainty. The solitary sun finger is divided into 9 grades. Grade 9 is the lowest and grade 1 is the highest. Everyone only knows that one can switch to the 6-pulse godly sword after cultivating to grade 1. However, they don't know that the solitary sun finger, which is cultivated to grade 1, can really save a person from death in terms of healing. "All right, if you say it's possible, then we'll believe you." Wu Xingyun was the most decisive. He immediately said, "I'll go to Dali now and ask for the solitary sun finger from the Duan clan. Martial Uncle, please wait for a moment. It won't be too late to act after I'm done talking." Seeing that Wu Xingyun was about to leave, Fang Qingshan quickly stopped him. Although the healing effect of the solitary sun finger is obvious, there is a drawback. Fang Qingshan comforted Wu Xingyun and continued, "That is, the user will lose their power." "What?" Wu Yazi and Su Xinghe's expressions changed. What did the people of Jianghu care about the most? It wasn't a secret technique, it wasn't a divine weapon, it was a cultivation base, because without cultivation base, everything would become nothing. Looking at Wu Yazi's current situation, losing his power meant death. How could Wu Yazi be willing to sacrifice his senior and junior sisters to save him? Therefore, he immediately objected. "All right, stop talking. I don't agree to the treatment." Unfortunately, a dragon in shallow water would be toyed with by prawns. He had no right to speak now. Su Xinghe and Wu Yazi had a deep relationship, so he could accept using Wu Xingyun or Li Qiushui to exchange for his master. However, Fang Qingshan was confident. On the other hand, Li Qiushui and Wu Xingyun remained calm and fearless. They loved Wu Yazi so much that they were willing to sacrifice their lives for him. The 4 of them ignored Wu Yazi's words, which made him so angry that his liver hurt. If that's the case, I'm starting to believe that the solitary sun finger has the ability to bring the dead back to life. Li Qiushui slowly said, "Let me use it then. My minor phaseless technique can imitate all the martial arts in the world. It should be even better when used." Junior sister's words are different. Wu Xingyin shook his head and said indifferently, "In the end, the simulation isn't real. One look, and you can tell that the solitary solar finger is a masculine finger technique. In this world, is there any cultivation technique more masculine than my 8 desolation and 6 direction supremacy? Therefore, I'm the most suitable. With my power, I'll definitely be able to get twice the result with half the effort." "Senior sister, you're in trouble." Even though Li Qiushui was retorting, she still spoke in a gentle and soft voice, like a cool breeze caressing one's face. "Senior brother's body is weak and cannot be nourished. He has too much yang energy. Do you want to harm him?" "Humph, it's precisely because he's lethargic right now. His serious illness needs strong medicine to cure. Only in this way can he be reborn from the jaws of death." Wu Xingyin also refused to be outdone. "I'm more suitable. I'm the best." "Senior sister is wrong. I'm right." For a moment, the two of them actually started arguing again, causing Fang Qingshan and the others to feel a headache coming on. They looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. "Kid, who do you think is more suitable, me or her?" "Junior nephew, don't you think junior uncle is more suitable?" Caught off guard, the topic suddenly changed. The two of them seemed to have realized that they would not be able to get anything out of arguing, so they immediately threw the topic to Fang Qingshan. In order to save Master, he obviously won't agree to let any of senior uncle and junior uncle die. Looking at Wu Xingyin and Wu Xingyin who were glaring at him, Fang Qingshan immediately felt the pressure. He couldn't say it directly, but he also could not say it. He could only tactfully express his opinion. Seeing that Fang Qingshan still remembered his words, Wu Yazi could not help but nod in satisfaction. "Oh, actually, both senior uncle and junior uncle have no problem using the solitary solar finger." Fang Qingshan first did a round of Tai Chi, then said, "But I think the most suitable one is senior uncle. The reason is that senior uncle, Fang Zheng, has recently been cultivating the supremacy of the 8 desolations and 6 directions technique. He needs to rejuvenate once every 30 years, and his cultivation power has dissipated. Instead of dissipating his power, he might as well use the solitary solar finger to save Master. It can be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone." Fang Qingshan was like a rapid-fire machine gun, explaining the people he chose and the reason why he chose. Then, he carefully guarded himself, afraid that Li Qiushui would get angry and attack him. Wouldn't he be wrong then? Fang Qingshan's words were like the sun, dispelling the clouds and dispelling the clouds, instantly waking everyone up. Yes, how could they forget that Wu Xingyin cultivated the supremacy of the 8 directions technique and needed to rejuvenate once every 30 years? His cultivation power dissipated. If he wanted to regain his cultivation power, he had to cultivate every day. Every day was a year. Moreover, he had to drink fresh blood at noon to cultivate. Wu Xingyun's cultivation power was about to dissipate, so he used it to perform the solitary solar finger. What else do we need to do besides the solitary solar finger? Li Qiushui couldn't bear to see Wu Xingyun's complacent look, so she quickly changed the topic. Fang Qingshan thought for a moment and continued, "Although the solitary yang finger is miraculous, it is not omnipotent. Therefore, we still need to complement it with various kinds of spiritual herbs to nourish it. Martial Uncle and Martial Uncle are both experts in this aspect, so I do not need to explain too much. However, those precious medicinal herbs are a problem." "That's not a problem. There are many treasures in the Western Xia Imperial Palace. I'll ask someone to send them here. If it's not enough, I'll ask the Class 1 hall to search everywhere." Li Qiushui waved her hand as if it was a piece of cake. "My Vulture Palace also has many. I'll ask the people of the 36 caves and 72 islands to move, and they will not be less than someone." Wu Xingyin glanced at Li Qiushui and said confidently, "These two people were absolutely incompatible. As long as they seized the opportunity, even if they didn't fight, they would take advantage of each other with words." Fang Qingshan subconsciously ignored their completely useless words. That's the extent of the injury. Then, the next problem is the internal force. After all, Master is old. Even if the injury is healed, without the support of internal force, I'm afraid it will not solve the problem. Regarding this point, Li Qiushui and Su Xingyan naturally had no objection. It was rare to live in the 70s, and they were already in their 80s or 90s. The reason why they could still live so freely was because of their martial arts. So the next step is to restore Master's internal force. Fang Qingshan saw that the others were deep in thought, so he said with a smile, "This is actually very easy. After all, Master is practicing the Northern Underworld divine skill." "Junior brother, do you mean to let Master devour the internal force of others?" Su Xingyan asked. "Yes." Fang Qingshan nodded affirmatively. Originally, senior uncle's internal force could be lost to Master's, and it would be more suitable. After all, it comes from the same source, and it's thick and pure. But because we need to use the solitary solar finger, we have to settle for the second best. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.